Welcome to AI Otaku Studio. Like, subscribe, and enjoy this video. Chapter 26. A classic trope, the fixed NPC Zhu Beng. Little brother Yang, take this medallion. It belongs to my cousin Zhu King. Take it directly to the Heaven Do Academy's committee members, and you'll be able to enter the academy. Before leaving, Qian Renxiu handed a gilded medallion to Yang Yuan. Thank you, Sister Zhu. Hearing Yang Yuan's thanks, Qian Renxiu gave him a final reminder. By the way, little brother Yang, my identity within the imperial family is a bit special. You mustn't spread it around. Don't worry, Sister Zhu. Our relationship is between us and the heavens. I won't breathe a single word. Yang Yuan gave his guarantee with a carefree look. How could he not guess what Qian Renxiu was worried about? She was simply afraid he would let something slip and arouse suspicion from others. Seeing this, a smile appeared on Qian Renxiu's beautiful face, and she finally left at ease. The next day, Snake Lance Douluo suddenly arrived at the door. Looking at the suddenly appearing Snake Lance Douluo, Yang Yuan asked in confusion, "Senior Shi, why are you here?" Snake Lance Douluo grumpily tossed a ring to Yang Yuan. "This is the storage soul tool your sister Zhu promised to give you." Yang Yuan caught the ring with quick reflexes and grinned, "Help me thank Sister Zhu." After delivering the storage soul tool, Snake Lance Douluo continued his instructions. "There's one more thing your sister Zhu wanted me to tell you. She has increased your reported age by 2 years. Otherwise, if the news of your innate rank 20 spread, it wouldn't be good for you. Remember, the wind will always break the tallest tree in the forest. Caution is the parent of safety." Yang Yuan nodded. After absorbing 2 spirit rings in succession, his body had undergone a transformation. Besides his appearance and temperament, his height had also shot up. Even if he claimed to be 2 years older, it wouldn't look strange. Seeing this, Snake Lance Douluo couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Their move was indeed intended to protect Yang Yuan, but there was another more important reason. That was to prevent Yang Yuan from being recruited by other forces due to being too outstanding. Yang Yuan was too young, and his mind was not yet settled. If he were truly recruited by the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan or the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, they would probably regret it to death. After finishing his instructions, Snake Lance Douluo returned to report. Heaven Do Academy occupied a mountain peak 1,000 meters high, with the main campus built at the summit. As for the vast area between the mountainside and the foot of the mountain, it was developed into various mimicry cultivation environments. When Yang Yuan reached the gate of the main campus at the summit, he directly showed the gilded medallion Qian Renxiu had given him. Therefore, even though Yang Yuan wasn't wearing the Heaven Do Academy uniform, the gatekeeper still respectfully let him in. However, just a few steps into the academy gates, an arrogant and domineering voice suddenly rang out. "Stop right there." The moment he heard the voice, Yang Yuan's lips twitched. Truly a classic trope. Just from the sound of it, he knew someone was coming to pick a fight. He just didn't know if the troublemaker was the fixed NPC of Heaven Do Academy found in every fanfic, Zhu Beng. Theoretically, it shouldn't be such a coincidence. After all, it was still 6 or 7 years before Shrek Academy's arrival at Heaven Do Academy in the original story. Zhu Beng might not even have joined Heaven Do Academy yet. Thinking of this, Yang Yuan looked toward the source of the voice. Quite a few people had come, about 7 or 8 of them. Each appeared to be 13 or 14 years old, wearing the pale yellow Heaven Do Academy uniform, exuding an air of lofty arrogance. Upon seeing Yang Yuan, their gazes held both envy and disdain. Someone whispered, "This guy looks like a total pretty boy. But looking at his clothes, he doesn't seem like a noble. How did he get into Heaven Do Academy? Are you stupid? Didn't you see the medallion he just took out? That's the Crown Prince's medallion. Seeing that medallion is like seeing the Crown Prince in person. This pretty boy probably has a connection with the Crown Prince. He didn't get sent in here by selling his ass to please the Crown Prince, did he? SHH, daring to gossip about the Crown Prince, do you want to die? What's there to fear? We have His Highness Zhu Beng. They're both sons of His Majesty, so who's afraid of whom? Exactly, it's not certain who will have the last laugh. At the front of the group, Zhu Beng listened to his lackey's conversation, especially the last two sentences. It felt good, after all, even as a prince with no power whatsoever, he still had so many supporters. But at the thought of his two brothers' mysterious deaths and Uncle Zhu Exing's warnings, a flash of fear appeared on Zhu Beng's face, and he snorted coldly. Enough, say less of such things in the future. If the crown prince hears this, watch out or I'll sacrifice you for the sake of justice. After he spoke, the others immediately dared not continue gossiping about the crown prince. Zhu Beng then stepped forward and sized Yang Yuan up. How could he not know what kind of person Zhu Qinghe was? Currently, everyone in the court knew that Crown Prince Zhu Qinghe was courteous to the wise and humble to the talented. Anyone he took an interest in was definitely no mediocre talent. This pretty boy before him looked like a country bumpkin, yet he had earned Zhu Qinghe's appreciation and was even granted a medallion and sent to Heaven Do Academy. The meaning behind this was self-evident. This kid was definitely a genius that Zhu Qinghe was focusing on cultivating. Thinking of this, Zhu Beng's expression turned much uglier. Damn it, Zhu Qinghe already had so many followers, yet he still wasn't satisfied. Suddenly, Zhu Beng's eyes darted around as a spark of inspiration hit him. He was currently a playboy whose reputation was already completely trashed. In that case, why not take his playboy behavior to the absolute limit? Zhu Qinghe wanted to cultivate geniuses, right? Then he would trip him up. If he could drive away this genius he was cultivating, that would be for the best. He doubted Zhu Qinghe would trouble him over such a small matter. Having thought it through, Zhu Beng swaggered toward Yang Yuan with his group of lackeys, his expression arrogant. Hey, little country bumpkin. Are you a noble? If not, why are you at Heaven Do Academy? Yang Yuan was also sizing up the Zhu Beng in front of him. He had overheard the conversation of the lackeys behind Zhu Beng, which allowed him to completely confirm the identity of the person before him. He hadn't expected to actually run into the fixed NPC, Zhu Beng. Speaking of which, the original story said this guy was always self-tarnishing and enduring in silence. But looking at him now, Zhu Beng didn't need to self-tarnish or endure anything, he could just play himself. Thinking of this, Yang Yuan gave him a contemptuous look and coolly spat out two words. Dumbass. As soon as these words came out, Zhu Beng and his lackeys were stunned on the spot. Country bumpkin, do you have any idea who is standing before you? You dare to insult His Highness, Zhu Beng. One of the people beside Zhu Beng stepped forward and shouted sternly. Yang Yuan glanced at the person indifferently and gave a disdainful sneer. A good dog doesn't block the way. After saying that, Yang Yuan walked forward. He raised a hand and pressed it against the head of the person in front, casually shoving them aside and forcing his way past Zhu Beng and his group. It wasn't until he had walked 7 or 8 meters that Zhu Beng finally reacted. He gnashed his teeth in fury and pointed fiercely at Yang Yuan's back, seizing the opportunity to make a scene. Hey, that damned country bumpkin dares to disregard this prince so much. Men's get him. Today, I'll make this country bumpkin kneel and apologize to this prince. With a loud shout, the lackeys beside Zhu Beng immediately jumped out. Don't worry, Your Highness Zhu Beng, leave this country bumpkin to us. Exactly, a mere country bumpkin dares to humiliate us. Today, we'll let him know that our Heaven Do Academy isn't a place for any random stray dog to attend. As they finished, 3 figures immediately rushed toward Yang Yuan. However, just as their fists were about to land on Yang Yuan, as if he had eyes in the back of his head, Yang Yuan suddenly turned around. In his double pupils, chaos Kai swirled, and his voice was bone-chillingly cold. I really gave you too much face. Chapter 27, Stop Fighting, A Clear Mind. At that exact moment, Yang Yuan's palm suddenly lashed out. With a crisp slap. The speed was so fast, the force so fierce, that it instantly created a sharp sonic boom before landing on the face of the lackey in the lead. The others only felt as if something had flashed before their eyes. The person who had just been charging at the front was sent flying backward at an even faster speed, like a kite with a broken string. Gulp tilde. The few remaining people slammed on the brakes, and upon seeing this, they couldn't help but gulp, their faces filled with fear and shock. What the hell kind of power is this? The person who had just been slapped away was no weakling. He was a level 23 spirit grandmaster. How could he be so vulnerable? Upon seeing this, Zhu Beng instantly sobered up a bit. No wonder this country bumpkin could be valued by Zhu King, and even specially admitted into Heaven Do Academy. He really does have some skills. However, seeing that he is at most 8 or 9 years old, how strong could he really be? It must have been that his opponent underestimated him just now. With this thought in mind, he looked at the other lackeys who had stopped in their tracks and cursed loudly, "What are you standing there for? Go on. Has a mere country bumpkin scared you out of your wits? There are 6 of you left, 6 against 1, what are you afraid of? Get him, all of you." The remaining 6 people heard this and exchanged glances. One of them gritted his teeth and directly activated his spirit. His spirit was a leopard, and after activating it, leopard-like markings immediately appeared on his body. Beneath his feet, 2 yellow spirit rings appeared. Students able to enter Heaven Do Academy usually come from families with some influence, so it is rare to see a first spirit ring that is only 10 years old. The others also activated their spirits one after another. Some of their spirits were shields, some were swords, and there was also a rhinoceros spirit and a swallow spirit. After activating their spirits, the 6 swarmed forward. It looked like there was absolutely no coordination. The leopard spirit master took the lead. As an agility attack system spirit master, his speed was even more fierce than the others. When he saw that Yang Yuan was standing still, his heart filled with joy. What a country bumpkin, he's actually this arrogant, not even activating his spirit. He's truly courting death. If a spirit master does not activate their spirit, they can probably only exert 1 or 2/10 of their full strength. The leopard spirit master closed in, reaching Yang Yuan's front in an instant. He looked at Yang Yuan, a wild, arrogant smile on his face. Acting tough. Let's see how I knock you back to reality. However, the next second, his body froze in place. Yang Yuan's figure flickered, and a hand reached out from nowhere, covering the leopard spirit master's face with extreme speed. Before he could even react, his vision went black. Yang Yuan, covering his face, slammed him violently into the ground. Bang! Debris and dirt splashed everywhere. The leopard spirit master was smashed headfirst into the mud by Yang Yuan, his head embedded inside. The other 5 were startled by this sudden, brutal scene, but they were already committed. The 5 attacked Yang Yuan in unison. However, Yang Yuan's reaction and speed were faster than theirs. After releasing the leopard spirit master, Yang Yuan used Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track, his figure moving like a phantom, instantly dodging all of the 5's attacks. Then it was like a tiger entering a flock of sheep, 1 palm for each. Having consecutively absorbed 2,000-year spirit rings, Yang Yuan's spirit power reached level 24. If he didn't hold back his strength, let alone these people, even an ordinary spirit elder would be slapped to death by him. With a few dull thuds, the bodies of the 5 flew backward, crashing 7 or 8 zhang away before passing out. Given Yang Yuan's short temper, while he wouldn't kill them, he certainly wouldn't let them off easily. This slap was enough to keep them in bed for a few months. Zhu Beng witnessed this scene, his face full of disbelief. How could this happen? Zhu Beng didn't understand. Every one of his lackeys had spirit power reaching over level 20, and it was 6 against 1. How could they lose so thoroughly? What level is this country bumpkin exactly? Just thinking about how Zhu Qinghe had actually recruited such a genius made Zhu Beng's face twist with jealousy. But just as he was internally roaring, "Damn it," out of jealousy, a figure appeared silently before him, looking at him with contempt. After Zhu Beng snapped out of it, looking at the figure before him, who was not taller than him, a strong sense of oppression immediately arose. Especially when he locked eyes with that pair of double pupils, a feeling of staring into an abyss made his soul tremble uncontrollably. These double pupils seemed capable of capturing a soul. "Yo, what do you want to do to me? I am the fourth prince of the Heaven Du Empire. If you dare to do anything to me, my imperial father will absolutely not let you off," Zhu Beng said in a dry tone, a hint of forced toughness appearing on his face. HMPH still daring to be stubborn. "Do you really think I don't dare to do anything to you?" Yang Yuan snorted coldly, raised his hand, and slapped Zhu Beng across the face. With a slap, Zhu Beng's cheek immediately swelled up, and 4 or 5 bloody teeth were sprayed directly from his mouth. Yang Yuan didn't knock him out immediately. Instead, he slapped him from both sides, intending to humiliate Zhu Beng severely. This guy was purely disgusting. If he didn't deal with him harshly, Yang Yuan felt his mind wouldn't be clear. Anyway, if anything happened, Qian Rengxu would take the heat. As long as he left Zhu Beng with a breath of life, it would be fine. Not far away, the gatekeeper saw this and was horrified. His Highness the Fourth Prince was actually being humiliated like this by one of His Highness the Crown Prince's people. If word got out, His Highness the Crown Prince's person might not have any trouble, but he, the gatekeeper, could be in huge trouble. So the gatekeeper hurriedly ran over, shouting, "Stop fighting! Stop it quickly! If you keep fighting, someone is going to die." Meanwhile, many students of Heaven Du Academy had already been attracted by the commotion here. When they saw Zhu Beng being humiliated like this in broad daylight, many students watched from afar and cheered. Seeing the gatekeeper coming over, Yang Yuan immediately slapped Zhu Beng unconscious. Seeing this, the gatekeeper was helpless and could only point at Yang Yuan and say, "You have caused a huge disaster." Yang Yuan shrugged indifferently. "All right, I won't make it difficult for you. Just take me to see the 3 committee members directly. When the time comes, just tell them exactly what you saw, and nothing will happen." Seeing this, the gatekeeper could only nod in agreement, then took Yang Yuan directly to the committee member's office. After the two left, some of the students watching from afar finally approached. When they saw the miserable state of Zhu Beng and his few lackeys, they all gasped. Where did this ruthless person emerge from? He's simply too brutal. Zhu Beng has always been arrogant and domineering, but this time he kicked a metal plate. He deserved it. Chapter 28, Meng Shenji's Shock. The committee office. The gatekeeper knocked on the door first, and an old voice immediately came from inside. "Come in." Seeing this, the gatekeeper glanced at Yang Yuan, then pushed open the door and they walked in together. Inside the committee office, 3 old men sat behind a desk. After seeing who had entered, their gazes swept past the gatekeeper and finally settled on Yang Yuan. After sizing up Yang Yuan for a few seconds, the old man sitting in the middle smiled kindly and said, "You must be Yang Yuan, right? The Crown Prince sent someone specifically to inform us, saying he was introducing a young talent to come to the academy to cultivate. Seeing you now, you are indeed a man of striking appearance, just as the Crown Prince said." Yang Yuan also replied politely, "Greetings, 3 committee members." "Ho ho ho, no need to be formal," the old man in the middle said with a chuckle, and the more he looked at Yang Yuan, the more he appreciated him. After all, he had heard from the Crown Prince that this little fellow before him not only had innate full spirit power, but was only 8 years old and had already made a breakthrough to rank 24. Such talent could not be found in a second person in their entire Heaven Du Academy. After speaking, he looked at the gatekeeper and smiled gently. "Zyro Lei, is there anything else?" He thought the gatekeeper had only come to lead the way for Yang Yuan. Zyro Lai had a bitter face, and then he recounted the events that had happened earlier in detail to the old man. "Chief Meng Shenji, that is how everything happened." After Zyro Lai finished, he saw that the expression on Meng Shenji's face had turned completely dark. Clearly, Meng Shenji was currently very angry. However, he wasn't angry at Yang Yuan, but rather at Zhu Beng and the others for daring to be so presumptuous. They had nearly driven away a peerless genius. If that had really happened, he would have kicked those worthless playboys out of Heaven Du Academy, no matter what. Fortunately, Yang Yuan was fine. As for Zhu Beng and the others being taught a lesson by Yang Yuan, that was a non-issue in his eyes. Bullying the small, outnumbering the few, and still being inferior in skill, what did it matter if they got beaten up in such a situation? 2 words served them right. Not only that, he intended to file a complaint against Zhu Beng with Emperor Zhu Yi to make him suffer a bit more. All right, Zyro Li, I'm aware of the matter, you may leave now. Seeing this, Zyro Li immediately understood he wouldn't be in trouble. Feeling relieved, he respectfully exited the committee office. Once Zyro Li left, Meng Shenji gave Yang Yuan an apologetic smile. Little fellow, the academy's lack of discipline has made us a laughingstock. Yang Yuan said with a faint smile, there are scumbags everywhere, aren't there? Seeing how blunt Yang Yuan was, Meng Shenji couldn't help but let out a laugh. Meng Shenji then introduced himself and the other 2 committee members, Bai Baoshan and Zhai Lin. After the introductions, Zhai Lin suddenly spoke up, little fellow, we heard from the Crown Prince that your first 2 spirit rings are both 1,000-year spirit rings. Is this true? After Zhai Lin spoke, Meng Shenji and Bai Baoshan also cast curious glances. Initially, when they received this information from the Crown Prince, they were also full of disbelief. Only after the Crown Prince's repeated assurances did they become half-believing. After all, since ancient times, no one had ever heard of someone's first and second spirit rings both being 1,000-year ones. The exception being those with twin spirits. Seeing that Meng Shenji and the other 2 knew about his first 2 spirit rings being 1,000-year ones, Yang Yuan's expression remained calm. Because this was exactly what he and Caiyan Renxiu had agreed upon. After all, in the coming years, it would be impossible for Yang Yuan to never show his spirit ring configuration. The more he tried to hide it then, the more suspicious it would seem. In that case, it was better to reveal it openly and find some excuse to gloss over the matter. After all, compared to rank 20 innate spirit power, 1,000-year level first and second spirit rings were easier for outsiders to accept. Just like Tang San's 10,000-year 4th ring in the original story. Besides this, there was another reason why Caiyan Renxiu dared to let Yang Yuan display his spirit ring configuration so openly. That was because with her connection, Spirit Hall posed no threat to Yang Yuan. As for the rest of the upper 3 sects, the Clear Sky sect was in seclusion, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan was neutral toward the Heaven Dew Empire, and the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School was close to the Heaven Dew Imperial family. Therefore, Yang Yuan had safety guarantees and wouldn't be subjected to unnecessary, targeted assassinations. Facing the gazes of the 3 committee members, Yang Yuan smiled slightly, and a light of chaos flashed within his double pupils. In the next second, 2 purple spirit rings immediately rose and circled up from beneath his feet. They really are 2,000-year spirit rings. The 3 committee members were greatly shocked by this and couldn't help but marvel. Meng Shenji then asked curiously, little fellow, can you tell this old man how you absorbed these 2,000-year spirit rings? Without thinking, Yang Yuan gave the reason he had prepared long ago. To answer committee member Meng Shenji, you know I am a commoner. Back then, knowing nothing, I went to the Stardew Great Forest alone to hunt for a spirit ring. As it turned out, I accidentally ate a golden fruit, after which my body underwent a mutation, and my physical strength increased several times over. Later, I happened upon a dying spirit beast. After killing it, I directly absorbed its spirit ring. Fortunately, I succeeded. I only found out later that the spirit beast was a 1,000-year spirit beast, which only a 3-ring spirit elder can absorb. Thinking back now, I still feel a sense of lingering fear. If not for that golden fruit, I'm afraid I would have died from my body exploding due to absorbing a spirit ring beyond my level. Hearing this, the 3 of them couldn't help but look moved. The world is truly full of wonders. There actually exists a treasure that can increase the limit of spirit ring tolerance. But little fellow, it's also thanks to your great fortune, otherwise you wouldn't be standing here talking to us now. In the future, you must not act as recklessly as you did before. Yang Yuan grinned and nodded in agreement. Afterward, Meng Shenji and the others chatted with Yang Yuan for a few more moments before saying to him, little fellow, normally since your spirit power hasn't reached rank 25, you should be assigned to the Heaven Faint class. But your talent is obvious to all, so we plan to make an exception and recruit you into the Heaven Apex class. This year's Heaven Do Academy has also produced many geniuses, most of whom are currently in the Heaven Apex class. Between you geniuses, there will be more common ground. Meng Shenji chuckled. Of course, there was another reason why he wanted to place Yang Yuan in the Heaven Apex class. In the academy, those geniuses led by Yu Tianheng thought too highly of their own talent and had developed a lazy attitude toward cultivation. Meng Shenji had advised them many times, but nothing had changed. That was why he wanted to use Yang Yuan to stimulate the self-esteem of these geniuses, so they would cast aside their lazy habits. It could be seen here that it wasn't just the students of Shrek Academy who were lax in their cultivation. Most academy geniuses had this problem. It was just that those few people from Shrek Academy, besides being lax in cultivation, also had major character flaws. It was either gambling or visiting brothels, and also bullying the weak while fearing the strong. How did this look like teaching students? Chapter 29, Plotting for Immortal Herbs, 100 Solutions. After their conversation, Meng Shenji personally instructed a teacher to arrange a dormitory and a Heaven Do Academy uniform for Yang Yuan. The accommodation conditions at Heaven Do Academy were quite good, with single rooms and complete facilities. Just as Yang Yuan moved into his dormitory, his deeds began to spread wildly throughout the academy. Although Zhu Beng was insignificant in the eyes of many genius students, he was, after all, the fourth prince of the Heaven Do Empire, so no one had ever laid a heavy hand on him. Until today. Now everyone in the academy was talking. It was said that a ruthless person had arrived at the academy who gave no face to the imperial family, ruthlessly humiliating Zhu Beng and knocking out more than a dozen of his teeth. It was truly miserable. In the heavenly grade training ground, a group of students gathered together to chat, discussing the incident where Zhu Beng had been dealt with not long ago. At this moment, a middle-aged man walked over. Yang Yuan followed behind the middle-aged man. Everyone gather around, I have an announcement to make. The middle-aged man shouted, and the Heaven Do students scattered across the training ground walked over somewhat lazily toward where the two were standing. Teacher Wang, you called us all here early. Is there something you need to tell us? There were about 40 students, and standing at the very front was a youth of about 13. This youth had a cold expression, and an invisible arrogance emanated from his eyes, making him particularly striking. Of course, everyone present knew he had the capital for such arrogance. After all, not only was he born into the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan, but he was also the direct grandson of the clan chief, Yu Yuanzhen. At only 13 years old, he already had a spirit power level of rank 28. Looking at the entire Heaven Do Academy, he could be said to be in a class of his own. Teacher Wang glanced at the youth before him and smiled, while shaking his head. Yu Tianheng had always been arrogant. Aside from a few individuals, he looked down on everyone in Heavenly Grade Class 1. This time, he was going to take quite a blow. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but glance out of the corner of his eye at Yang Yuan, standing beside him. Despite having seen many geniuses, Teacher Wang had to admit that all the geniuses he had ever met combined might not compare to a single Yang Yuan. An 8-year-old rank 24 spirit grandmaster. In at most 2 or 3 years, he would likely completely surpass Yu Tianheng. Teacher Wang looked around and cleared his throat. I have gathered you all here to inform you of some news. After speaking, he pointed at Yang Yuan and said, This is Yang Yuan, a new student at the academy. From today on, he will be joining our Heavenly Grade Class 1. After he finished, all the students of Heavenly Grade Class 1 looked at Yang Yuan in unison. Their eyes were full of scrutiny. At this moment, a voice whispered from within the crowd. He looks so unfamiliar. Could he be the ruthless person who beat up Zhu Beng and his gang today? It's quite possible. I didn't expect him to be assigned to our class. Hearing the discussion, even Yu Tianheng couldn't help but take a few extra looks at Yang Yuan. Although he had always looked down on that trash Zhu Beng, he had never thought of teaching him a lesson. It wasn't that he didn't dare, but that for the sake of a piece of trash, it wasn't worth offending the Heaven-Do Empire's imperial family. In a corner among the students, a heroic-looking girl with short purple hair was also sizing up Yang Yuan. Within her pair of green eyes was a hint of satisfaction. Because her grandfather had a decent relationship with Prince Zhu Exing, Zhu Beng had often used that connection to harass her. It wasn't until her grandfather personally warned him that he finally behaved himself. Therefore, Yang Yuan's actions could be considered helping her vent some pent-up anger. This made Du Guyan feel a bit more favorable toward Yang Yuan upon their first meeting. However, what puzzled Du Guyan was that Yang Yuan looked far too young. At his age, no matter how high his rank was, how high could it really be? Also, wasn't the heavenly grade class only for students ranked 25 and above? Could he be someone with connections? Not just Du Guyan, but other students also had similar doubts. Just as they were wondering, Teacher Wang spoke up to explain. He smiled and said, "Student Yang Yuan's spirit power level has not reached rank 25. However, due to his astounding talent, the 3 committee members have decided to make an exception and admit him into the heavenly grade class." As soon as these words were spoken, Yu Tianheng, standing at the front of the students, narrowed his eyes and looked at Yang Yuan with a scrutinizing gaze. Astounding talent. He wanted to know exactly what kind of talent could make the 3 committee members make an exception for him. One must know that even with his blue lightning tyrant dragon martial soul, he hadn't made the 3 committee members make an exception. Why would a mere 8 or 9-year-old child have such a qualification? At this moment, Teacher Wang looked at Yang Yuan with a smile and said gently, "Yang Yuan, give a brief self-introduction." Yang Yuan nodded slightly and then introduced himself. "Hello everyone, my name is Yang Yuan. My spirit is the I Martial Soul, and I am a rank 24 Attack System Spirit Grandmaster." As soon as he said this, the scene immediately broke into an uproar. Everyone's eyes landed on Yang Yuan in unison, their faces filled with disbelief. He clearly looked only 8 or 9 years old. How could he be a rank 24 Spirit Grandmaster? "Student Yang Yuan, may I ask how old you are this year?" someone in the crowd asked. 8 years old, Yang Yuan replied with a slight smile. Everyone was shocked. This is freaking 8 years old. Hearing Yang Yuan's introduction, Yu Tianheng felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Rank 24 at 8 years old. How is that possible? He had an innate spirit power of rank 8, and possessed the world's #1 beast spirit, the blue lightning tyrant dragon. But even so, he had only reached rank 24 at the age of 12. How could Yang Yuan's talent be so much better than his own? Teacher Wang guessed what was on Yu Tianheng's mind and said calmly, "There's no need to doubt. The reason Yang Yuan's talent is so high is that he has innate full spirit power." Innate full spirit power. Hearing this, Yu Tianheng's pupils suddenly constricted. One must know that even his most admired grandfather did not have innate full spirit power. No wonder Yang Yuan's talent was so powerful. Yu Tianheng grit his teeth. As someone who had always been proud, he would not allow himself to be surpassed. His gaze toward Yang Yuan was filled with battle intent. No matter how high the talent, without a powerful spirit, it's useless. I Martial Soul. He had never even heard of it. At a glance, it seemed like an ordinary spirit that could never compare to the blue lightning tyrant dragon. Thinking this, Yu Tianheng gave a cold snort, and a look of cold arrogance once again appeared in his eyes. Even if his spirit power level were to be surpassed by Yang Yuan one day. But Yu Tianheng was confident that in terms of combat strength, Yang Yuan could never be his match. Even if Yang Yuan were 10 ranks higher, he would have no fear. This was the absolute confidence that the blue lightning tyrant dragon martial soul gave him. All right, you all get to know each other. Also, tell Yang Yuan about the cultivation plan for heavenly grade class 1. After saying that, Teacher Wang walked away. After he left, the students of heavenly grade class 1 immediately swarmed around, full of curiosity about Yang Yuan. After a round of self-introductions, Yang Yuan recognized 2 more people from the original work. The 2 brothers, Shimo and Shimo. One was ranked 25, and the other was ranked 26. Besides them, there was also a purple-haired girl standing behind the crowd, not coming forward to speak. With that head of purple hair, Yang Yuan recognized her identity at a glance. It was indeed Douluo Yan. Yang Yuan was determined to obtain the immortal herbs from the ice and fire yin-yang well. However, he didn't need to resort to any underhanded schemes. He could uprightly earn the recognition of the grandfather and granddaughter to obtain the immortal herbs. Isn't it just about detoxification? With the double pupils, given enough time, he could find 100 solutions. A full 100. Chapter 30, Yuzairogang. As your teacher, I recommend you go to a special academy. Aside from Douluo Yan, Yu Tianheng also didn't crowd around like the others. Standing outside the crowd, Yang Yuan naturally recognized him as well, seeing the unwillingness, defiance, and even a hint of disdain in his eyes. Of course, this disdain wasn't directed at Yang Yuan's cultivate talent. Instead, it was a slight toward Yang Yuan's martial soul. High innate spirit power was impressive, but at most, it just meant a breakthrough to title Douluo a few years earlier. When it came to combat prowess, one still had to look at their respective spirits. Just like the former Clear Sky Douluo, who, relying on the Clear Sky Hammer spirit, could take on 3 enemies at once upon first entering the titled Douluo rank, leaving 1 dead and 2 crippled. How majestic was that? As the continent's #1 tool spirit, the Clear Sky Hammer could achieve this. As the continent's #1 beast spirit, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon could naturally do the same. Thus, although Yu Tianheng thought more highly of Yang Yuan in his heart, he couldn't bring himself to proactively show goodwill like those mediocre people. He couldn't do it. If Yang Yuan were to take the initiative to strike up a friendship, he could reluctantly accept him as a friend. Yang Yuan didn't know that Yu Tianheng's inner monologue was so rich at this moment. Seeing the latter's cold face, he didn't know if it was natural or if someone owed him money and hadn't paid it back. So Yang Yuan's gaze swept over Yu Tianheng, and he no longer paid him any mind, turning to talk with the others. During the conversation, he also learned about the study plan within Heavenly Grade Class 1. The teaching plans for each class in Heaven-Do Academy were actually more or less the same. However, the higher the level, the higher the degree of freedom. The plan for Heavenly Grade Class 1 was 1 culture class every day, mainly studying common knowledge of the Spirit Master's world and some Spirit Master theories. Besides that, there were individual combat training and team combat training every 3 days, as well as a Great Spirit Arena trial once a week. As for the rest of the time, it was used for meditation and cultivate. Of course, combative students could also find like-minded friends to spar on the training ground themselves. This teaching plan clearly placed more emphasis on individual spirit power cultivate. It was true that a perfectly coordinated Spirit Master team could easily defeat much stronger enemies. But for the Academy's students, teammates were not fixed for the long term. Once they graduated, most students would go their separate ways. Under these circumstances, if one spent most of their time in the academy hunting the team and cultivating tacit understanding between teammates, it would undoubtedly be a waste of time. Because the team you had in the academy would likely fall apart as soon as you graduated. Therefore, rather than spending time integrating into a battle team, it was better to enhance one's own strength and let the team proactively adapt to oneself. Yang Yuan was fairly satisfied with Heaven-Do Academy's teaching plan. Compared to Shrek's unorthodox methods, although Heaven-Do Academy had a corrupt atmosphere, it still had its own set of teaching methods, Nuding City. It had been some time since Yang Yuan left, but he still hadn't returned, and many people were even speculating whether he had died during his soul hunt. After all, no matter how strong Yang Yuan was, he was only rank 10 and didn't even have his first spirit ring. Yet he went to hunt for a spirit ring without asking for a teacher's help. Wasn't that just seeking death? In the 7th dormitory, Zyro Wu didn't seem particularly sad or upset about everyone's guesses. She didn't really care whether Yang Yuan was dead or alive. At most, she felt it was a bit of a pity. She had always wanted to defeat Yang Yuan fair and square to clear her name. If Yang Yuan was dead, who would she go to for that? The memories of Yang Yuan beating her until she had panda eyes and a pig-like face were still fresh in her mind. Occasionally, when she thought about it, she would still feel a dull ache in her cheeks. And on the top floor of the dormitory building, in the dormitory at the very corner, Tang San stood before the desk with a respectful expression. In front of him, Yu Zairogang sat behind the desk, head down, writing and drawing on a piece of scratch paper. After a while, once Yu Zairogang stopped writing, Tang San finally spoke up to ask, "Teacher, it's been nearly half a month, and Yang Yuan still hasn't returned. Do you think he might have died out there?" Tang San was someone who had personally experienced a soul hunt, so he knew how difficult it was. Even with his teacher, a rank 29 spirit grandmaster, leading him, they were nearly double killed by a 400-year-old Datra snake. Not to mention Yang Yuan, who went to hunt for a spirit ring alone. Hearing Tang San's question, Yu Zairogang couldn't help but put down his pen and then shook his head. "As your teacher, I don't know either. However, many spirit masters die during soul hunts on the continent every year. So even if Yang Yuan died out there, I wouldn't be the slightest bit surprised. That child has decent talent, but his heart nature is too poor. He can't compare to you at all, little San. If he could have put aside his pride to beg me, I might not have refused to take him to hunt for a spirit ring. Unfortunately, at such a young age, he thought that because he defeated you and Zyro Wu, he did not know the heights of the heavens and the depths of the earth, and was so arrogant as to think he could hunt for a spirit ring alone. If that isn't seeking death, what is? Little San, remember not to learn from him in the future." Hearing this, Tang San nodded solemnly. This disciple will strictly follow teacher's teachings. Seeing this, Yu Zairogang nodded in satisfaction. A teachable child indeed. It seemed he hadn't chosen the wrong person. Tang San was very obedient. It was just a pity that Yang Yuan was likely already dead. Otherwise, with his talent and my guidance, the chance of him becoming a titled Douluo in the future wouldn't be small. By then, I would have taught 2 titled Douluos from the same lineage, enough to look down upon the continent. Unfortunately, Yang Yuan was too foolish. If he died out there, it could be considered paying the price for his own stupidity. If he didn't die, then I would give him a chance to become my disciple. But soon, a new piece of news quickly spread through Nyuding Academy under Director Su's notification. This news originated from a letter Yang Yuan had someone send back. Yang Yuan sent back the news that he had fortunately caught the Heaven Du Crown Prince's eye and was admitted to Heaven Du Academy as an exception. It quickly caused a massive stir within Nyuding Academy. To many of them, Heaven Du Academy was an unattainable existence. Besides requiring noble status, it also required a certain level of talent. In Nyuding Academy, even Zyro Chenyu, who had the highest status, wasn't qualified to enter. Thus, the students of Nyuding Academy, who already admired Yang Yuan, suddenly became even more reverent toward him. After learning this news, the people of the 7th dormitory, led by Wang Sheng, felt even more proud by association. Tang San immediately told this news to Yu Zairogang. Learning that Yang Yuan not only hadn't died, but was instead favored by the Heaven Du Crown Prince and had joined Heaven Du Academy. Besides his initial surprise, Yu Zairogang couldn't help but frown. Yang Yuan joining Heaven Du Academy, this meant that he would no longer be able to take Yang Yuan as a disciple. Fine, it seems Yang Yuan and I are not destined to be master and disciple. Yu Zairogang shook his head. Because he still had Tang San, an obedient disciple with twin spirits, he didn't feel it was too much of a pity. To the side, Tang San said seriously, not being able to take teacher as his master is Yang Yuan's loss. Yu Zairogang smiled gratifiedly, accustomed to Tang San's reverence. He said with a smile, "Little San, don't worry. When you graduate, your teacher will recommend you to a special academy." Tang San asked curiously, "Teacher, how does that academy compare to Heaven Du Academy?" Yu Zairogang smiled confidently. "The academy I'm talking about might not be as famous as Heaven Du Academy, but its elite-oriented education far surpasses Heaven Du Academy." Hearing this, a look of surprise and joy flashed across Tang San's face. There was such an academy. If I could join it, wouldn't I be able to stay one step ahead of Yang Yuan? Chapter 31, My Spirit Poison Immunity. In a corner of Nuoding Academy, a tall man with a slovenly temperament, wearing a tattered black robe with a hood concealing his face, narrowed his eyes. I didn't expect that kid named Yang Yuan would actually join Heavendew Academy. What a pity. I originally wanted to test him further and have him take Grandmaster as his teacher as well, so he could serve as Little San's right-hand man in the future. I didn't expect him to join Heavendew Academy after just one trip out. No matter, it's just an martial soul. Even without him, with his twin spirits, Little San will still be able to shake the continent and restore the glory of the Clear Sky sect one day. However, I can't let Zyro Wu run away next. Since Little San is interested in this Zyro Wu, perhaps I can try to make some plans. A sharp glint flashed in Tang Hao's narrowed eyes, cold and piercing. On the other side, Emperor Seoul Village. Since Yang Yuan had replied to Director Su of Nuoding Academy, he naturally wouldn't forget to inform old Jerry. After learning that Yang Yuan had joined a top-tier academy of the Heavendew Empire, old Jerry was so happy he couldn't sleep all night. He told everyone he met, "How did you know my grandson joined Heavendew Academy?" Fearing that others wouldn't know the prestige of Heavendew Academy, old Jerry would always thoughtfully share the description of the academy from Yang Yuan's letter with them. So now the whole village knew. Old Jerry's grandson, Yang Yuan, had made something of himself and would surely become a powerful spirit master in the future. Everyone was incredibly envious of him. Heavendew Academy. Several days had passed since Yang Yuan joined Heavendew Academy. Over the past few days, the commotion from him dealing with Xu Beng gradually subsided, and in the end, no one came to cause him any trouble. Even Xu Beng and his followers were ordered to return home and were grounded for 3 months. It was said that this matter had even reached Emperor Zhu Yi. Upon learning that Xu Beng had nearly driven away a commoner genius with the potential of a titled Douluo, Emperor Zhu Yi flew into a rage on the spot. After all, a commoner genius meant a clean background. Such geniuses were the most favored by any power. They were also the easiest to recruit. If they lost such a genius because of Xu Beng, Emperor Zhu Yi would definitely not let Xu Beng off easily. Even if Xu Beng was his son. After all, a powerful titled Douluo was enough to protect the empire for hundreds of years. To compensate Yang Yuan, while punishing Xu Beng, Emperor Zhu Yi also specifically ordered someone to deliver 100,000 gold coins to his dormitory. Although it was called an apology gift, there was also the intention of using these 100,000 gold coins to take the opportunity to build a good relationship with Yang Yuan. As for the task of recruiting Yang Yuan, Emperor Zhu Yi handed it over to Zhu King. After all, he had learned from the 3 committee members that Yang Yuan had originally joined Heavendew Academy through Zhu King's. Naturally, Yang Yuan wasn't formal about it and accepted the 100,000 gold coins in full without any psychological burden. After all, who would complain about having too much money? Aside from this matter, Yang Yuan had also completely integrated into life at Heavendew Academy over these few days. Except for Yu Tianheng and Du Guyan, he had interacted more or less with the other students of Heavenly Grade Class 1. Additionally, Yang Yuan participated in a practical combat class. To accommodate him, Teacher Wang specifically arranged for 2 students who had just reached rank 25. Unfortunately, with Yang Yuan's strength, fighting these 2 was like child's play. He defeated the 2 of them with effortless ease. This was also the first time everyone in Heavenly Grade Class 1 saw Yang Yuan in action. His powerful combat strength immediately made them compare him with Yu Tianheng. If Yu Tianheng defeated his opponents with an overwhelming aura every time, then Yang Yuan's way of defeating opponents was like an old man playing with a child, appearing relaxed and graceful. Those eyes of his seemed able to see through all the opponent's weaknesses, even those within spirit abilities. On the training grounds, this was the second practical combat class Yang Yuan attended. Everyone was assigned their respective opponents. Yu Tianheng's opponent was Shimo, who possessed the Black Tortoise spirit. Shimo's Black Tortoise spirit was considered a top-tier defensive spirit, and his spirit power level wasn't low either, reaching rank 27. Although he was no match for Yu Tianheng, it wouldn't be easy for Yu Tianheng to defeat him head-on. As for Yang Yuan, the opponent Teacher Wang arranged for him was none other than Doulouo Yan. Teacher Wang said with a smile, "Yang Yuan, you won't blame me for increasing the difficulty for you, will you?" "It's fine, I like challenging high difficulties." Yang Yuan shrugged nonchalantly, his face showing not a trace of nervousness. To him, fighting a rank 25 Spirit Grandmaster was no different from fighting a rank 27 Spirit Grandmaster. Doulouo Yan stood opposite Yang Yuan, and seeing the lack of nervousness on his face, she couldn't help but frown slightly. Although Yang Yuan had dealt with Xu Beng, which could be considered venting some frustration on her behalf, his expression and attitude gave her the feeling of being looked down upon. He says he likes challenging high difficulties, but does he actually think I'm no match for him? Doulouo Yan narrowed her eyes, a dangerous light flashing in her slightly narrow green pupils. She decided to teach this little brother a lesson. To let him know that there is always someone better out there. Although he would surpass her sooner or later. For now he was still not her match. Thinking this, Doulouo Yan held nothing back and directly released her spirit. 2 yellow spirit rings instantly spiraled up from beneath her feet. "Little brother, aren't you going to release your spirit rings yet?" After her martial soul possession, fine snake scales immediately appeared on Doulouo Yan's fair arms, and her figure became even more enchanting. Her eerie eyes swept over Yang Yuan, her voice charming yet exuding a sense of danger. The students of Heavenly Grade Class 1, who were watching from not far away, instinctively shuddered upon hearing Doulouo Yan's voice, and retreated further. After all, Doulouo Yan's spirit power was poisonous, and they didn't want to get caught in the crossfire. Hearing this, Yang Yuan beckoned Doulouo Yan with his finger. "Classmate Doulouo, no need to be so polite, just bring it on. You asked for it." Seeing Yang Yuan still persisting in his ways, Doulouo Yan snorted coldly and waved her hand. A multicolored poisonous mist immediately gushed out from her palm. At the same time, using the multicolored poisonous mist as cover, Doulouo Yan herself lunged toward Yang Yuan like an arrow from a bow. Yang Yuan stood his ground, and his figure was soon enveloped by the multicolored poisonous mist. But he remained unmoved, a chaotic color flashing in his eyes. Suddenly his body tilted to the right. A slender palm suddenly slashed down past his chest. Her strike missed, and a look of surprise flashed in Doulouo Yan's eyes. Such fast reaction speed. However, she followed up with another attack toward Yang Yuan. Within this poisonous mist, any spirit master of the same rank without strong poison immunity could not possibly be her match. But gradually, after exchanging over 10 moves, Doulouo Yan sensed something was wrong. Why did it seem like Yang Yuan wasn't affected by the jade phosphor serpent poison at all? "I don't believe your poison resistance can be this strong." Doulouo Yan grit her teeth, and the 2 yellow spirit rings at her feet lit up one after another. First spirit skill, jade phosphor red poison. Second spirit skill, jade phosphor blue poison. If these 2 spirit skills were used on teammates, they could increase their attack and defense. But if used on enemies, they could enhance the poisoning effect on them. However, Yang Yuan still appeared to have plenty of strength to spare within the multicolored poisonous mist. No matter how Doulouo Yan attacked, she couldn't even touch a corner of Yang Yuan's clothes. Seeing that the time was ripe, Yang Yuan struck out with a palm. Bang! With a muffled thud, Doulouo Yan's body was sent flying backward. Doulouo Yan stumbled as she steadied herself. But when she saw Yang Yuan walking out of the multicolored poisonous mist looking refreshed, a look of undeniable shock flashed across her face. "You, how on earth did you manage to remain unscathed within my jade phosphor serpent poison?" Yang Yuan smiled faintly, his voice clear. "My spirit poison immunity." Chapter 32, The Fish Takes the Bait. Poison immunity. Impossible, absolutely impossible. How could such a spirit exist in this world? Yuan was stunned at first, then shook her head repeatedly. But looking at Yuan, who was unharmed in the distance, this thought couldn't help but waver. The spectators in the distance were shocked by what they saw. Yuan actually defeated Yuan. Not only that, did you hear him? His spirit is poison immunity. If that's true, then Yuan is completely Yuan's nemesis. Teacher Wang walked forward, an unconcealable look of surprise on his face. He clearly hadn't expected Yuan to not only defeat Yuan, but to win so easily. Poison immunity. Does such a spirit truly exist in this world? If this information reached that person's ears, would it bring danger to this kid, Yuan? At this thought, Teacher Wang quickly dispelled it. Although that crown's reputation wasn't too good, he surely wouldn't lay a hand on an 8-year-old child. What Teacher Wang didn't know was this. The reason Yuan so ostentatiously revealed the information about his poison immunity spirit was precisely to attract Dougal's attention. I lost. On the other side, Yuan took a deep breath. She finally accepted the fact that she had lost to Yuan. However, she still didn't believe that any spirit in the world could be immune to poison. Even a beast spirit with extremely high poison resistance, like the blue lightning tyrant dragon, wouldn't dare claim to be immune to poison. Moreover, Yuan's martial soul didn't look like a spirit with high poison resistance at all. He must have used some other method to resist her poison technique. Yuan retreated into the crowd, but her beautiful eyes were constantly fixed on Yuan's every move. Immediately after the combat training ended, she walked up to him. Yuan, let's talk. Okay. Watching the two leave, a group of people showed curious expressions. They walked to a deserted corner, standing opposite each other. After a moment of silence, Yuan spoke, "Is your spirit truly immune to poison?" Her voice carried hesitation and inquiry. Yuan smiled frankly. "At least your snake venom has no effect on me, not even a little bit." After speaking, he could clearly feel Yuan's breathing quicken slightly. She was clearly quite shaken. In Yuan's view, Yuan's spirit power level was lower than hers, yet her snake venom had no effect on him. Then, when Yuan's level increased in the future, wouldn't her snake venom become even more useless in front of him? Yuan still didn't believe that Yuan's spirit could be completely immune to poison. If it were her grandfather's snake venom, Yuan would definitely be unable to resist. Just as Yuan's mood was complex, Yuan's next sentence suddenly made her expression change drastically. "Student Dougal, if I'm not mistaken, you should be poisoned." Upon hearing this, Yuan's pupils suddenly constricted. The jade phosphor snake martial soul inherently carries potent venom, which can be released during attacks. However, before her grandfather, members of the Dougal family showed no signs of being poisoned. But her grandfather was exceptionally gifted and improved the Dougal family's poison technique, which was the Dougal family's meditation method. Although the results were remarkable, the poison technique, which her grandfather developed solely by himself, had a major flaw. It was this flaw that caused her grandfather, a master of poison, to have his body gradually corroded by toxins over years of cultivation, able to suppress it only with powerful cultivation. Not only that, this toxin would also be passed down to future generations. This also led to her father's early death, causing her grandfather to bury his own child, regretting it for a lifetime. Even she herself inherited this terrifying toxin. And this terrifying toxin is gradually eroding her body during her cultivation process. Her hair color is the most obvious sign of her body being corroded by toxins. Additionally, her purple hair subtly emitted a foul odor of toxin corrosion, forcing her to rely on strong perfume to mask it. "What have you seen?" Yuan glanced left and right, her pretty face grave, her tone tinged with nervousness. This already involved the secrets of the Dougal family. After all, who would have thought that a family specializing in poison would ultimately be corroded by toxins? Yuan herself didn't care, but if others knew that her grandfather was also suffering from severe poison, it would be dangerous. Yang Yuan looked at Dougu Yan's instantly nervous expression and said confidently, "Student Dougu, I know what I need to know, don't be nervous." Dougu Yan couldn't help but complain internally. "The more you know what you need to know, the more nervous I should be, all right. Speak, what will it take for you to keep this secret?" Dougu Yan said in a deep voice. Clearly, Dougu Yan wasn't ruthless enough. If it were Tang San, at this moment it would be, "You have found the path to your own demise." Yang Yuan scratched his head. "I never said I was going to spread this secret." Besides what? Dougu Yan asked hastily, feeling that the situation was somewhat different. Yang Yuan chuckled lightly, looking at Dougu Yan with confidence. "Besides, the toxins on student Dougu shouldn't be difficult to resolve, right?" Upon hearing this, Dougu Yan didn't give Yang Yuan any good look, coldly snorting and saying impatiently, "My grandfather is a titled Douluo, and the foremost grandmaster of poison in the world. If the problem with my body were so easy to solve, wouldn't he have solved it himself?" But after Dougu Yan finished speaking, she found that Yang Yuan still had a confident expression on his face. This confident demeanor immediately made Dougu Yan's heart skip a beat. A thought inexplicably arose in her mind. Could Yang Yuan really have a way to solve the toxin corrosion in her body? Yang Yuan grinned. "All things in the world are mutually reinforcing and restraining. A problem your grandfather can't solve, I might not be unable to solve. At least, solving your problem is easy for me." Upon hearing this, Dougu Yan was greatly shaken. An expression of disbelief, along with a hint of extremely subtle anticipation, appeared on her face. After a long while, she slowly uttered a few words. "Is that true?" Yang Yuan heard this, and a hint of joy flashed in his eyes. The fish took the bait. Of course, Yang Yuan was also truly confident in solving Dougu Yan's problem. "Is it true or not, you'll know once I heal you, won't you?" This sentence immediately raised Yang Yuan's credibility significantly. At least Dougu Yan truly believed him at this moment. Joy overflowed on her pretty face, and she excitedly grabbed Yang Yuan's hands, her tone instantly becoming much more intimate. "Younger brother Yang Yuan, if you can solve my problem, you will be a great benefactor to our Dougu family from now on. Then what are we waiting for? Sister Dougu's problem, I can solve it today." Dougu Yan was startled. So hastily. "Younger brother Yang Yuan, do you not need to prepare anything in advance?" Yang Yuan's expression was confident. "No need for such trouble. Sister Dougu, follow me. I said I'd cure you today, and I won't drag it out until tomorrow." Chapter 33, Solving Dougu Yan's Spirit Poison. The dormitory. Yang Yuan motioned for Dougu Yan to sit down. Dougu Yan looked slightly nervous. Although Yang Yuan had said he could solve the problem that had plagued her for many years today, she still felt a hint of unease in her heart. Younger brother Yang Yuan, can it really succeed? Guaranteed, Sister Dougu. Relax, your problem isn't too serious yet. Hearing Yang Yuan's reassurance, Dougu Yan's slightly anxious heart calmed down significantly. Then what should I do? Dougu Yan continued to ask. Yang Yuan fetched a cup of water for Dougu Yan and handed it to her, smiling as he said, "Just sit here. I'll check your condition first." After speaking, a flash of chaos color flickered in Yang Yuan's double pupils. Dougu Yan immediately noticed something. Is Yang Yuan activating his spirit? In Yang Yuan's vision, the double pupils pointed directly to the origin, allowing him to see clearly the situation inside Dougu Yan's body with a single glance. Inside Dougu Yan's body, faint emerald green energy traveled through her meridians and internal organs, slowly eroding her physical body. This energy shared the same origin and source as her jade phosphor snake martial soul. This was also why Dougu Bo, a grandmaster of the poison Tao, could not solve the root cause of the poison. But just because Dougu Bo couldn't solve, it didn't mean Yang Yuan couldn't either. After a thorough inspection, Yang Yuan already understood Dougu Yan's condition perfectly. First of all, Dougu Yan's problem originated from her spirit. In the original work, storing the poison within a spirit bone was a viable method. However, this method carried certain risks. Because as the stored poison increased, if the spirit bone couldn't withstand it and exploded one day, it would inevitably lead to the danger of death. Therefore, if a spirit bone were to be used to store the poison, either a high-grade spirit bone or an external spirit bone with room for growth would be needed. Unfortunately, both options were priceless treasures. Yang Yuan's method, however, was simple and direct. That was to directly eliminate the poison within Dougu Yan's body and then repair the flaw in her spirit. For outsiders, this was almost an impossible feat. Unless one consumed a treasure like an immortal herb, which could allow someone to change their fate in a heaven-defying manner. But since Yang Yuan possessed the double pupils and could perceive the origin, how could he possibly fail to fix the flaw in Dougu Yan's spirit? Withdrawing his gaze, Yang Yuan smiled and said, "Sister Dougu, I already know how to solve your problem." "Really?" Dougu Yan exclaimed in surprise. Yang Yuan retrieved 2 meditation cushions from nearby and sat cross-legged on one of them. Then he pointed at the other cushion in front of him. "Sister Dougu, please sit cross-legged here." Dougu Yan suppressed the excitement in her heart and nodded slightly. After she was seated, the expression on Yang Yuan's face became slightly more serious. "I'm starting now." Finished speaking, Yang Yuan raised his hands and placed his palms against Dougu Yan's. At this moment, Dougu Yan's heart pounded wildly. Of course, it wasn't because of the physical contact with Yang Yuan. How old was Yang Yuan anyway? The reason Dougu Yan's heart was racing was the overwhelming excitement that, after today, she would finally be normal again. She was already praying to the gods in her heart. It must succeed. What responded to her was Yang Yuan's pair of double pupils, profound as an abyss. The next second, she felt 2 streams of gentle energy flow from Yang Yuan's palms into her body. After these 2 streams of energy entered her body, they quickly flowed through all her meridians. Yang Yuan's purpose in doing this was naturally to force the poison inside Dougu Yan's body to concentrate in one place. As time passed, after a short while, Yang Yuan's left eye suddenly turned silver, and a milky white light shot out from it. A dense life force power instantly filled the entire dormitory. Dougu Yan felt refreshed and delighted just by taking a light sniff. What miraculous energy! This feeling is similar to when Lingling releases her spirit. However, this energy seems much purer. Sensing the dense life aura in the dormitory, Dougu Yan pondered. As for Yi Lingling, Dougu Yan naturally knew her. The 2 families had a relatively close relationship. When she was young, her grandfather had taken her to the Yi family for treatment, but unfortunately, it was unsuccessful. Yi Lingling was also naturally at Heaven Do Academy, but her spirit power level had not yet reached rank 25, so she was still a Sky Minor rank student. Just as Dougu Yan's soul was divided, Yang Yuan mentally controlled the life force power from his left eye, pouring it into Dougu Yan's body and enveloping the cluster of poison he had forced together. As this life force power surged into Dougu Yan's body, an extremely comfortable sensation suddenly enveloped her. This feeling was like floating among immortals, making her feel completely clear throughout her body. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. Dougu Yan's delicate body trembled violently, looking as if she had been struck by lightning, shivering slightly. A comfortable moan spilled from her throat. A look of pleasure surfaced on her heroic face. In an instant, the comfortable sensation receded like a tide, and the pleasure on Dougu Yan's face was replaced by shame, adding a slight look of avoidance when she glanced at Yang Yuan. She cried out internally. That was truly too embarrassing just now. How could she make a sound like that? It was simply abnormal. However, Yang Yuan paid no attention to Dougu Yan's internal struggle at the moment. He had now completely cleared the poison from Dougu Yan's body. But this only treated the symptoms, not the root cause. To achieve complete recovery, the problem with her spirit must also be solved. Otherwise, as she continued to cultivate, she would still be eroded by the poison within her spirit. In Yang Yuan's double pupils, densely packed runes flickered, and his profound gaze landed upon Douguyan. In his line of sight, an illusory green snake phantom swayed, instantly revealing its flaws through the double pupils. Yang Yuan observed the jade phosphor snake phantom, and after locating the problem, his left eye once again shot out a milky white light. The dense life force power enveloped Douguyan once more. Douguyan's pretty face instantly changed. Oh no, that feeling is back. And it was even more intense this time. It wasn't just physical, but pleasure that reached the soul. Douguyan's rationality told her to endure. She absolutely could not expose the shameful behavior she had shown before Yang Yuan. But she couldn't hold it in. A long-suppressed moan spilled from her throat once again, and an expression of pleasure appeared on her rosy cheeks. Douguyan's eyes were red, and tears were about to flow out. This was far too embarrassing. She just wanted to find a hole to crawl into right now. Fortunately, at this moment, Yang Yuan released her hands and smiled easily. Sister Dougu, it's done. Check your body to see if there are any uncomfortable areas. Ugh, it's done. The moment Yang Yuan let go, a sudden feeling of emptiness arose in Douguyan's heart, but it was instantly replaced by excitement. She quickly checked her entire body and soon reached a conclusion. It's fixed. It's really fixed. Overwhelmed by excitement, Douguyan wept tears of joy, and 2 streams of clear tears flowed from her eyes. In her excitement, she immediately hugged Yang Yuan. Younger brother Yang Yuan, truly. I truly thank you so much. From now on, you are my real younger brother. Chapter 34, Dougu Bo's shock. Yang Yuan's kindness can never be repaid. A rich fragrance wafted into his nose, but Douguyan was completely unaware of the ambiguous posture between the two. She pressed down on Yang Yuan's head while speaking words of gratitude. It wasn't until Yang Yuan raised his hand and waved it that Douguyan suddenly snapped out of it. She immediately pushed Yang Yuan away, a flustered expression flashing across her pretty face. However, she quickly regained her composure. She comforted herself in her heart. Why am I so flustered? I was just expressing my gratitude just now. Thinking this way, Douguyan immediately lost her last psychological burden. Yang Yuan, liberated from Douguyan's broad embrace, couldn't help but take a deep breath and teased. Sister Dougu, you actually wanted to return kindness with enmity and suffocate me alive. A woman's heart is truly the most poisonous. This made Douguyan, who had just let go of her burden, blush once again. She said irritably, I think you're just acting like a spoiled child after getting a bargain. Yang Yuan shrugged indifferently. After a while, Douguyan regained her serious expression and said in a deep voice, Younger brother Yang Yuan, since you can cure the toxins in my body, my grandfather's situation is much more serious than mine. Are you confident in curing him? Yang Yuan naturally knew Douguyan was talking about Dougu Bo, so he chuckled and said, Perhaps I can. Hearing this, Douguyan's eyes lit up. After Yang Yuan cured her, she was full of confidence in him. Since Yang Yuan said so, he must have a certain level of certainty. Even if he couldn't cure it for the time being, it didn't matter. With Yang Yuan's talent, he would definitely be able to cure it in the future. Younger brother Yang Yuan, I'm going to tell Grandpa the news that you cured me right now. You cured the spirit poison in my body, so Grandpa will definitely repay you. When the time comes, feel free to mention any conditions. Don't be polite with my grandfather. My grandfather is a titled Douluo, he's very wealthy. Sister Dougu, those are your words. Yang Yuan grinned. He was waiting for these exact words from Douguyan. Of course, I said it. Douguyan waved her hand, Dougu Mansion. After Douguyan left Yang Yuan's dormitory, she hurriedly rushed back to the Dougu Mansion. Grandpa! As soon as she returned to the mansion, Douguyan shouted loudly, startling Dougu Bo, who was meditating in a quiet courtyard. Although the energy emitted from the ice and fire yin-yang well could suppress the toxins in his body, Dougu Yan's rank was insufficient, so she couldn't stay in it for long. Therefore, to accompany his granddaughter, except for special times when he would cultivate at the ice and fire yin-yang well to suppress his toxins, Dougu Bo spent most of his time at the Dougu Mansion in Heaven Du City. Upon hearing Dougu Yan's shout, Dougu Bo thought his granddaughter had run into some trouble, so his figure flashed, appearing before her instantly with a concerned face. Yan, shouldn't you be cultivating at Heaven Du Academy at this time? Why are you back? Were you bullied at the academy? Tell Grandpa and I will stand up for you. To dare touch Dougu Bo's granddaughter, I want to see who doesn't want to live anymore. A fierce light flashed in Dougu Bo's eyes. Dougu Yan said coquettishly, Grandpa, what are you thinking? At the academy, it's already good enough if I don't bully others. How could I be bullied? I came back this time because I have a major event to tell you. Major event? Dougu Bo's dark green eyebrows twitched slightly after hearing this. Yan, what major event is worth you making this special trip? Dougu Yan reached out her hand in front of Dougu Bo with a mysterious look. Grandpa, first look at what changes have happened to my body. Dougu Bo was stunned at first, his nose twitching slightly. Although he didn't touch Dougu Yan, he had already discovered the first difference on her body compared to the past. Because toxins had eroded her body before, she used to emit a faint fishy stench. Although she used perfume to cover it up, it couldn't be hidden from him. But now Dougu Bo discovered that the fishy stench on his granddaughter had actually dissipated. What was going on? Suddenly, Dougu Bo's pupils shrank as he thought of a possibility. Could it be the toxins in Yan's body? Dougu Bo immediately reached out and grabbed Dougu Yan's wrist at his fastest speed. In the next second, Dougu Bo was shocked. Yan, the toxins in your body. Hearing this, a smile appeared on Dougu Yan's face. Grandpa, you didn't see wrong. The toxins in my body have been removed. In the future, I will never suffer from the torment of toxin erosion again. Ha, it's actually true. My perception wasn't wrong. Ha, heavens, you've finally opened your eyes. You won't let my Dougu family be completely wiped out. Dougu Bo immediately became ecstatic. After a long while, he finally calmed down and asked in confusion, Yan, who helped you remove the toxins in your body? Could there be a grandmaster of the way of poison, even more powerful than me in this world? Dougu Yan burst into laughter upon hearing this. Grandpa, he's not some grandmaster of the way of poison. Not a grandmaster of the way of poison. Then who is it? There shouldn't be anyone in Heaven Du Academy who possesses such means, right? Dougu Bo became increasingly confused. If it wasn't a grandmaster of the way of poison, how could the spirit poison on Yan be removed? One must know that even he was helpless against this poison. Dougu Yan said with a smile, there indeed wasn't before, but that doesn't mean there isn't now. Saying so, Dougu Yan recounted the whole story of how Yang Yuan detoxified her to Dougu Bo. When he learned that a problem even he, a dignified titled Douluo and Poison Dao Grandmaster, couldn't solve was actually solved by an 8-year-old child, the expression on Dougu Bo's face was incredibly colorful. After a long time, he couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Truly, every generation produces its own talents. Not only has that little fellow named Yang Yuan reached rank 24 at such a young age, but his spirit is also so miraculous. But no matter what, since he cured the toxins in your body, Yan, he is a great benefactor of our Dougu family. Go and let him make a request. As long as I can do it, there is nothing I won't grant. Dougu Yan smiled brightly and then continued. By the way, Grandpa, I plan to bring younger brother Yang Yuan over in a few days to see you too. Since he can solve the problem on me, he might be able to solve the problem on you as well. Hearing this, a hint of interest flashed in Dougu Bo's eyes. Although he could forcibly suppress the toxins in his body with his powerful spirit power and the help of the ice and fire yin-yang well, this was not a long-term solution after all. There was no way before, but now that he suddenly saw hope, how could Dougu Bo not feel pleasantly surprised? Even if Yang Yuan couldn't solve his problem for the time being, it didn't matter, he could still afford to wait. Dougu Bo couldn't help but sigh with emotion. If that child can cure me as well, then the favor our Dougu family owes him will never be repaid. Chapter 35. I am a vulgar person, I love showing off. After Dougu Yan returned to Heaven Du Academy, she first went to Yang Yuan's dormitory to convey Dougu Bo's gratitude to him, and then extended an invitation for him to visit. Yang Yuan had originally intended to scheme for the immortal herbs of the ice and fire yin-yang well by making contact with Dougu Bo. Therefore, he naturally accepted Dougu Yan's invitation with pleasure. After setting a time, Dougu Yan left Yang Yuan's dormitory. The next day, the heavenly grade class 1 students gathered on the training ground. Everyone was surprised to find Yang Yuan and Dougu Yan standing together, chatting and laughing, looking very close. Since when did their relationship become so good? Everyone was confused. Whether it was Dougu Yan's talent, appearance, or background, she was considered top tier within the entire Heaven Du Academy. The people pursuing her could line up from Heaven Du Academy all the way to the city gates of Heaven Du City. But Dougu Yan was like a thorny rose, no one could get close to her. Since Dougu Yan joined Heavenly Grade Class 1, this was the first time they had seen her be so close to a man. That's not right, Yang Yuan is only 8 years old, just a little kid. If Yang Yuan were a bit older, countless male students would likely be heartbroken because of this. Yu Tianheng stood at the very front, his expression cold and arrogant, but his peripheral vision was fixed on Dougu Yan and Yang Yuan's direction, causing his brow to furrow slightly. Dougu Yan's closeness to Yang Yuan made him displeased. Of course, it wasn't that he liked Dougu Yan that much. It was just that before Yang Yuan arrived, he was the only one in the entire Heavenly Grade Class 1 who Dougu Yan would look highly upon. But it was only a slight regard. Even though he was as outstanding as he was, Dougu Yan had never been as close to him as she was treating Yang Yuan. Yang Yuan, what exactly gives him the right? Is it just because his talent is slightly higher? How can a mere ice spirit compare to the glory of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan? Yu Tianheng couldn't figure it out. He could only attribute it to Dougu Yan being short-sighted. But looking at how close the two of them were, Yu Tianheng felt a surge of intense unwillingness. He had extremely high standards for his choice of partner. However, looking across the Spirit Master's world, there were few outstanding female Spirit Masters to begin with. A female Spirit Master like Dougu Yan, whose appearance, talent, and background were all top tier, was definitely the best candidate for Yu Tianheng. The reason Yu Tianheng hadn't pursued Dougu Yan was simply that he couldn't bring himself to do it. How could he, the dignified direct descendant of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan, actively lower himself to pursue a woman? Despite this, he still secretly regarded Dougu Yan as his exclusive property. Previously, he hadn't cared. Because looking across Heaven Du Academy, only he was worthy of Dougu Yan. But Yang Yuan's appearance gave him a sense of urgency. Fortunately, Yang Yuan was only 8 years old, so Yu Tianheng wasn't worried about him beating him to it. But Yu Tianheng still felt unpleasant and secretly made a resolution. He must find an opportunity to crush Yang Yuan openly in front of Dougu Yan, letting Dougu Yan know. Even the best cultivation talent is equally vulnerable before his Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon martial soul. Is everyone present? Just then Teacher Wang walked over from a distance. Shimo, the honest person, said, "Teacher, everyone is here." Teacher Wang glanced around, and after seeing how close Yang Yuan and Dougu Yan were, a look of surprise flashed across his face. Good heavens, he was worried yesterday that if Dougu Bo found out about Yang Yuan's spirit's poison immunity characteristic, it might bring disaster upon Yang Yuan. Now it seemed his worries were completely unnecessary, given the relationship displayed by Yang Yuan and Dougu Yan. Dougu Bo probably wouldn't do anything to Yang Yuan. In fact, there was a greater chance he would try every means possible to matchmake the two of them. The surprise quickly passed, and Teacher Wang chuckled deeply. "All right then, since everyone is present, let's set off. You should all know today's mission. I hope you participate in at least one category: solo, duo, or 7-person team combat." After speaking, Teacher Wang walked ahead, and the group proceeded grandly. Soon they arrived in front of a magnificent and spectacular building. This building resembled the Roman Colosseum from Yang Yuan's previous life, appearing incredibly imposing. The oval exterior of the building was constructed from stacked massive stones. The rough stone surface was covered in traces of weathering and the carving of time, and the huge arches and colonnades were filled with a sense of explosive power. This place was precisely the Great Spirit Arena of Heaven Du City. Just standing outside the Great Spirit Arena, they could hear deafening shouts coming from within. Watching this spectacle, Yang Yuan couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement in his heart. Teacher Wang and the others were already used to it, and they smiled, leading the group calmly into the Great Spirit Arena. After walking inside, Teacher Wang looked at Doulouo and Yang Yuan, who were walking side by side. Doulouo, first take Yang Yuan to register. Once that's done, come straight to the registration office to sign up for spirit combat. Okay. Answering, Doulouo said to Yang Yuan, "Let's go, younger brother Yang Yuan." Before long, Yang Yuan completed both the registration and the spirit combat sign-up. Doulouo teased, "Younger brother Yang Yuan, you don't need to be so cautious, even taking a codename for spirit combat. If you want to avoid exposing your identity, the only way is not to participate in spirit combat. Otherwise, the information you registered alone cannot withstand an investigation." Yang Yuan shook his head. "Sister Doulouo, you've got this wrong. I'm using a code name, but it's not because I'm being cautious." "Then why?" Doulouo asked, full of curiosity. Yang Yuan grinned. "Why, of course, it's to show off. If a person's life doesn't involve showing off, they will miss out on a lot of fun. How many people can resist the pleasure of displaying their greatness in front of others?" The corner of Doulouo's mouth twitched slightly. "What a vulgar interest." Yang Yuan shrugged. "I am merely a vulgar person to begin with. A vulgar person chosen due to good fortune." After hearing this, Doulouo smiled brightly. Although Yang Yuan said this, she didn't feel the slightest aversion. Instead, she felt that younger brother Yang Yuan was being genuine. Of course, this was entirely Doulouo extending her love to everything related to him. If someone else had said this in front of Doulouo, she would likely have thought that person was superficial and unreliable. After signing up, just as Doulouo was about to take Yang Yuan to meet up with Teacher Wang, Yang Yuan stopped Doulouo. "Sister Doulouo, wait a moment, let's go somewhere else first." "Where are we going?" Doulouo looked confused. But soon she knew where Yang Yuan was taking her. In front of a huge betting table. Doulouo frowned and said, "Younger brother Yang Yuan, if you need money, you can tell your sister. There's no need to come here to bet on fights." Yang Yuan shook his head slightly, the corner of his mouth turning up. "Sister Doulouo, I'm not interested in money, but I enjoy the process of winning it." After speaking, Yang Yuan slapped the silver card that Zyro Chenyu had given him onto the table. He then took out 16 gold coins, making the total exactly 2,000. His voice was clear and loud. "I bet on the Heavy Pupils user to win the 5th Spirit Combat match this afternoon on Combat Stage number 7. Chapter 36, Smelting Myriad Spirits and Spirit Abilities, Developing the Double Pupils." On the way back, Doulouo asked curiously, "Was that silver card given to you by the Crown Prince?" 2,000 gold coins, not to mention a spirit grandmaster, even an ordinary spirit elder could not produce such a sum. And as far as Doulouo knew, Yang Yuan did not come from a prestigious background. Therefore, it was only possible that the silver card had been gifted by the Crown Prince. However, what made Doulouo want to complain was this. If this silver card was truly a gift from the Crown Prince, then he was being far too stingy. With only 2,000 gold coins, he still wanted to recruit a top-tier prodigy like Yang Yuan. Yang Yuan shook his head. "No, this was a gift from a friend of mine at the Elementary Spirit Master Academy." Doulouo suddenly understood. "I thought so. If the Crown Prince wanted to recruit Yang Yuan, how could his offer be so shabby?" Yang Yuan smiled and said, "I am not interested in money, but since this silver card was a gift from a friend, I have been worrying about how to repay this favor. The money I earn from gambling here will serve as interest for my friend. Yang Yuan had always been clear about gratitude and grudges. Although the 2,000 gold coins Zyro Chenyu gave him were of no real use to him, he kept the sentiment in his heart. Upon hearing this, Dougu Yan's beautiful eyes sparkled. She felt an increasing sense of admiration for Yang Yuan's loyal and righteous behavior. However, she still teased, "Aren't you afraid of losing everything in your bets?" "Losing everything? That would require me to lose. And I will never lose." A dazzling, brilliant light erupted from Yang Yuan's double pupils, and his entire body exuded an aura that moved even Dougu Yan. He was too confident, as if everything was within his grasp. This was the first time Dougu Yan had seen Yang Yuan display such an attitude. Unknowingly, the two soon arrived at a separately partitioned area in the spectator stands. Teacher Wang and the other students of Heavenly Grade Class 1 were all there. Seeing Dougu Yan and Yang Yuan arrive, Teacher Wang smiled and asked, "How was it? Did the registration go smoothly?" "I am at the number 7 Spirit Arena platform, the 5th battle in the afternoon." "All right, during this time, you should observe others' battles and accumulate practical combat experience." Yang Yuan nodded. There were a total of 36 Spirit Arena platforms within the Heaven Do Great Spirit Arena. It was massive in scale, and could conduct 36 spirit battles simultaneously. This was perfect. He could use this frequent spirit battling to frantically use his double pupils to copy their fighting techniques, combat experience, and even their spirits and spirit abilities. Smelting millions of spirits and spirit abilities to blaze a brand new path. Others might not have this ability, but that did not mean Yang Yuan lacked it. No matter how powerful an ability was, it needed constant development. Although Yang Yuan possessed a bug-level spirit like the double pupils, there was no doubt that his development of them was far, far too little. Time flew by. The students of Heavenly Grade Class 1 took to the stage one after another. Although the students of Heaven Do Academy lacked practical combat experience, the quality of their spirits and spirit rings was evident. Furthermore, the battles they participated in were not unrestricted life-and-death duels, so their win rate was not low. Out of the 40 people in the class, only a quarter lost their matches. Of course, there was another reason for such a high win rate. Aside from Yang Yuan, the students of Heavenly Grade Class 1 all had a spirit power level of at least 25. However, their opponents' spirit power levels ranged from 21 to 29 for spirit grandmasters. Dougu Yan, the Shi family brothers, Yu Tianheng, and others took to the spirit arena platforms one after another, all easily defeating their respective opponents. Among the four, the opponent Yu Tianheng faced had the highest spirit power level, being a 29-rank Black Panther Spirit Grandmaster. This Black Panther Spirit Grandmaster had already achieved 4 consecutive victories in the Heaven Do Great Spirit Arena and possessed a certain level of strength. Yet in front of Tianheng, whose spirit power level was 1 rank lower than his, he could not even last 3 moves. After defeating his opponent, Yu Tianheng's gaze swept toward the spectator stands where Heavenly Grade Class 1 was located. That cold and arrogant gaze was filled with provocation. Sensing this gaze, Yang Yuan could not help but raise an eyebrow. "This is aimed at me. I don't recall offending him anywhere, do I?" Although Yang Yuan did not take Yu Tianheng's provocation to heart, he could not help but feel puzzled. At this moment, Dougu Yan suddenly leaned in with a charming smile. "Younger brother Yang Yuan, it will be your turn soon. This is your first spirit battle. With so many people watching, will you be nervous?" Looking at Dougu Yan's charming smile in an instant, Yang Yuan understood everything. So that was it. Yu Tianheng was unhappy with the way Dougu Yan was treating him. Yang Yuan's gaze inadvertently met Yu Tianheng's provocative stare, and he chuckled. This bird-brained attitude, he clearly had an itch for a beating. Soon, the 5th spirit battle of the afternoon on the number 7 Spirit Arena platform began. Yang Yuan walked slowly onto the stage, amidst the announcer's introduction. As a complete newcomer, he naturally had no popularity. Only the students of Heavenly Grade Class 1 cheered a few times in the spectator stands. Dougu Yan, on the other hand, was watching the situation on the number 7 Spirit Arena platform with full concentration. At this moment, his opponent walked slowly out from the passage opposite Yang Yuan. As soon as he appeared, a deafening roar of cheers and shouts erupted from the surrounding spectator stands, shocking even the students of heavenly grade Class 1. Because encountering such a situation meant that Yang Yuan's opponent was likely not simple, it was very possible that, like Yu Tianheng's opponent, he had already achieved multiple consecutive victories in the Great Spirit Arena. Sure enough, the announcer declared in an extremely passionate voice, "Let us use the most enthusiastic cheers to welcome our one-on-one Spirit Battle 7 consecutive victory winner, Mo Long." 7 consecutive victories. Hearing this number, the students of heavenly grade Class 1 were startled. Being able to achieve 7 consecutive victories meant that Yang Yuan's opponent was most likely a 29-rank Spirit Grandmaster, just like Yu Tianheng's opponent. And he was the kind of 29-rank Spirit Grandmaster with no weak combat power. In contrast, although Yang Yuan's combat power was not weak, his spirit power level was only 24. Although he had the record of defeating Du Guyan head-on, in everyone's eyes, the reason he could easily defeat Du Guyan was mainly due to spirit suppression. After all, who could have imagined that Yang Yuan's spirit actually possessed poison immunity? Even Du Guyan's face showed a trace of worry. At the same time, on the Spirit Arena platform, Mo Long stood opposite Yang Yuan. When he saw Yang Yuan's face, a flash of surprise first crossed his eyes, but then he completely relaxed. Although being able to become his opponent meant that the other party's rank had also reached above 20, the other party was so young, how high could his rank possibly be? He was probably just someone who had just reached rank 21 and bumped into him. It looked like he would be able to easily win a free match. Thinking of this, Mo Long cracked his neck, and the gaze he directed at Yang Yuan was filled with mockery, disdain, and jealousy. He was in his 30s and had only barely reached rank 29, while this little brat opposite him was at most 8 or 9 years old, yet he could actually be a spirit grandmaster. Heaven truly had no eyes. However, when dealing with geniuses who ran to the Great Spirit Arena for training, Mo Long always loved to strike with heavy blows, then stomp these so-called geniuses under his feet and trample on their dignity. Yet his wanton and brutal style was deeply loved by the audience in a place like the Great Spirit Arena, which was filled with blood and violence. So when he cracked his neck, deafening, crazy cheers erupted from all directions. "Mo Long, go get him. Knock that little brat who hasn't even grown his hair out yet to the ground for me." Chapter 37, using his own way to treat him. This spirit fight officially begins. As the host's voice rang out loudly, the atmosphere in the number 7 spirit fighting arena was instantly ignited. Earth-shattering shouts were all cheering for Mo Long. On the spirit fighting platform, Mo Long spread his arms, enjoying the feeling of being the center of attention. He looked at Yang Yuan, his face full of contempt. Had it been any other opponent, he would not have acted this way. But Yang Yuan's age was too deceptive, to the point where Mo Long did not take Yang Yuan seriously at all. "Looks like I've been underestimated." Yang Yuan chuckled at the sight. Listening to the roaring cheers, he couldn't help but grin. The next second, a burst of chaos light erupted from Yang Yuan's heavy pupils. Under the gaze of the crowd, 2 spirit rings slowly rose. Purple still purple. Countless spectators watching the number 7 spirit fighting platform were stunned at first, but a moment later, they erupted into cheers and shouts 10 times more intense than before. 2,000-year spirit rings. Am I seeing things? How could such a spirit ring combination appear on a 2-ring Great Soul Master? An illusion, this must be an illusion. Discussions were mixed in with the cheers and shouts. Not to mention the audience, even the students of heavenly grade Class 1 were shocked by what they saw. Although Yang Yuan had never revealed his spirit rings, they had always assumed his spirit ring combination was the same as theirs, both being 100-year spirit rings. No one expected this. Yang Yuan's first and second spirit rings were actually not 100-year, but 1,000-year. How is this possible? Wasn't it said that the limit for the first spirit ring was over 400 years? This is too abnormal. Throughout history, only those with twin spirits could achieve a 1,000-year or even 10,000-year first spirit ring. A Upon seeing this, the worry in Dougu Yan's eyes faded away, and she murmured, "Younger brother Yang Yuan has hidden this too deeply, he didn't even tell me." But thinking about it, her relationship with younger brother Yang Yuan had only improved in the last 2 days, so she felt relieved. On the number 7 spirit fighting platform, Mo Long, seeing Yang Yuan release 2,000-year spirit rings, trembled violently, feeling his hair stand on end instantly. A look of disbelief flashed in his eyes as well. Both are two-ring Great Soul Masters, so how could this guy, who hasn't even grown his hair out yet, possess 2,000-year spirit rings? How on earth did he do it? Such thoughts were fleeting. Although Mo Long was shocked beyond measure, he was a veteran of many battles with rich experience, so he forced himself to calm down in just a moment. Now is not the time to be divided soul. Mo Long forced himself to focus, countless thoughts flashing through his mind. Although the 2,000-year spirit rings of the brat opposite him were very intimidating. But then again, spirit fighting isn't about the color of the spirit rings. Otherwise, everyone could just compare spirit ring colors, why bother fighting? Although he didn't know why the first and second rings of the kid opposite him were 1,000-year spirit rings. But he was a rank 29 spirit grandmaster with at least 100, if not 1,000, spirit fighting experiences. Was he really afraid of not being able to beat an 8 or 9-year-old kid? After thinking it through, Mo Long immediately released his spirit. In an instant, 2 yellow spirit rings spiraled up from under his feet. A jet-black longsword also appeared in Mo Long's hand. The moment he summoned his spirit, his body immediately shot out, spirit power surging, and he thrust his sword. Although attacking a child by surprise was ungentlemanly. But Mo Long had been spirit fighting for so many years that as long as he could win, face meant nothing to him. Although Mo Long didn't think he would lose to a child, when he actually made his move, he didn't hold back at all. Thanks to many years of spirit fighting experience, Mo Long's sword technique was particularly tricky and fierce. Furthermore, his speed was also extremely swift. If it were an ordinary spirit grandmaster, they would likely be caught off guard by this move. However, facing his tricky sword strike, a flash of chaos light flickered in Yang Yuan's heavy pupils, and his figure drifted away like Gui Mei. At the same time, Yang Yuan raised his hand and made a gesture. An illusory jet-black longsword actually condensed in Yang Yuan's hand. Upon seeing the longsword, Mo Long's pupils suddenly constricted. Isn't this my own spirit, the black killing sword? How could this kid's spirit also be the black killing sword? At this moment, Mo Long almost suspected that his eyes were playing tricks on him. And this method was naturally Yang Yuan using his heavy pupils to directly evolve Mo Long's spirit. If it were before absorbing the spirit rings, Yang Yuan would absolutely not have been able to evolve the spirit this quickly. But after absorbing 2 spirit rings in succession, Yang Yuan's development of his heavy pupils had greatly improved. For ordinary spirits, he only needed to take 1 look to evolve a rough approximation. Now with the longsword in hand. After dodging Mo Long's sword strike, Yang Yuan turned and thrust his sword. In a flash, Mo Long, who had just recovered, felt his heart tremble again. The style of this sword strike was exactly the same as the one he had just used. No, that's not right. The heavy pupils user's sword strike was faster and trickier. At this moment, Mo Long no longer dared to arrogantly view Yang Yuan as an ordinary child, but had completely come to see him as a powerful opponent. But this bit of shock was far from over. Soon, Mo Long would truly be able to experience the most terrifying part of Yang Yuan. That was that no matter what kind of offensive he launched, Yang Yuan could perfectly replicate his offense. Gradually, only fear remained in Mo Long's eyes. He tried to rely on his spirit power level and greater speed and strength to suppress Yang Yuan. Only to discover with horror that Yang Yuan was controlling his strength and speed to be exactly the same as his own. By the end of the fight, Mo Long even felt that he was not fighting Yang Yuan, but fighting his own reflection. The difference was that this reflection's move was exactly the same as his, but its technique was more brilliant than his own. If one were to vividly describe the process of their battle, It was like a father beating his son. The damage was low, but the humiliation was extremely high. Mo Long roared, the spirit rings at his feet flashing. First spirit skill, wind-breaking slash. A 12-foot sword kai instantly erupted from Mo Long's longsword, slashing towards Yang Yuan at an extremely fast speed. A grave look appeared in Mo Long's eyes. This time, you surely can't replicate even my spirit ability. Sure enough, seeing Yang Yuan motionless at first, Mo Long felt pleasantly surprised and let out a long sigh of relief. But just as the sword kai was about to strike Yang Yuan, chaos light flickered in his eyes, and countless dense runes rearranged and reorganized. Just a moment ago, the instant Mo Long released his spirit ability, he had already discerned the specific spirit power execution route of this spirit ability and perfectly replicated it. Spirit power surged on Yang Yuan's body. In the nick of time, he swung his sword as fast as lightning. Air-breaking slash. This sword strike had a sword kai length of 18 feet, and the sword momentum was unstoppable. The sound of breaking through the air was like the roar of a dragon and a tiger. Two sword kai collided in midair. Even though they were the same two spirit abilities, the strength and weakness were completely different. The wind-breaking slash unleashed by Yang Yuan directly destroyed the wind-breaking slash sword kai unleashed by Mo Long with an overwhelming momentum, finally landing on the latter with unstoppable force. Mo Long's expression changed suddenly, and his body flew backward like a kite with a broken string, crashing directly beneath the number 7 spirit fighting platform. After a brief silence, from all directions, earth-shattering cheers suddenly erupted. Yang Yuan stood in the center of the No. 7 spirit fighting platform, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. The winner has been decided. Acting cool is really satisfying. Chapter 38, Heaven-Defying Spirit. Fortunately, there are limitations. The entire Great Spirit Arena was in an uproar. What had they just seen? The Heavy Pupils user had actually used the same spirit and spirit ability as Mo Long to defeat his opponent. No, the pirated spirit and spirit ability imitated by the Heavy Pupils user were even more powerful than Mo Long's original ones. After this battle, the name of the Heavy Pupils user would thoroughly resound throughout the Heaven Do Great Spirit Arena. After stepping off the spirit fighting stage, everyone who passed by Yang Yuan looked at him with a bit more awe. Possessing such terrifying strength at such a young age, no one could imagine his future. Spectator stands. The crowd in Heavenly Grade Class 1 was also in an uproar. How on earth did Yang Yuan manage to copy his opponent's spirit? How could such a monstrous spirit exist in this world? Even the angel spirit of Spirit Hall is far less monstrous than this, right? In the crowd, Yu Tianheng looked dazed. The strength displayed by Yang Yuan exceeded his imagination. Although he believed that if it had been him in that battle just now, he could have easily won as well. But what was his rank? And what was Yang Yuan's rank? Even though Yu Tianheng was confident that the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Martial Soul was still the number 1 beast spirit on the continent. At this moment, he didn't dare to boast that Yang Yuan's Martial Soul was just an ordinary spirit. After all, he couldn't guarantee whether Yang Yuan could copy the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Martial Soul, in addition to Mo Long's spirit. Shortly after, Yang Yuan returned to the spectator stands amidst the gaze of everyone. The members of Heavenly Grade Class 1 stood up one after another, looking as if they were welcoming a victorious general. Teacher Wang looked at Yang Yuan with a complex expression. "I didn't expect you, kid, to have such a trick up your sleeve. It really surprised me. It seems that the 2 previous actual combat training sessions were too easy for you, to the point that they didn't even force out your method of copying spirit abilities." The others nodded in deep agreement. Yang Yuan had hidden himself too well. For an entire week, they hadn't known the true function of his spirit. Besides that, they also wanted to know, why were both Yang Yuan's first spirit ring and second spirit ring 1,000-year spirit rings? How exactly did he do it? Yang Yuan returned to his seat and sat down, feeling the slightly resentful gaze of Du Guyan beside him, and chuckled softly. Everyone, there is no need to be so surprised. Now you all know the true ability of my spirit, right? Someone asked curiously, so, can you copy any spirit and spirit ability? This question made everyone look at Yang Yuan. This was exactly the question they wanted to ask. If Yang Yuan could copy any spirit or spirit ability, then his spirit would be too monstrous. Theoretically, yes, Yang Yuan waved his hand meaningfully. Upon hearing this, everyone was shocked. It was actually possible. Teacher Wang, however, heard the subtext in Yang Yuan's words and said in a deep voice, "Since it is theoretically, that means your spirit must still have other limitations, right?" "That's right," Yang Yuan grinned. "Be high profile in your actions, but low profile in your conduct." He immediately continued to bluff, "My spirit is not omnipotent. For me, the more powerful the spirit, the harder it is to copy. For example, top-tier spirits like the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon or the Clear Sky Hammer, even if I could successfully copy them, I have no way to sustain the consumption of spirit power for a long time. Additionally, my spirit has another severe limitation." Hearing this, everyone was focused and listened attentively. Especially Yu Tianheng. After hearing that Yang Yuan's spirit had significant limitations, he felt a surge of joy. "I knew it, how could such a monstrous spirit not have limitations?" Subsequently, he heard Yang Yuan slowly speak. "After I copy an opponent's spirit, I must maintain a distance within 1 kilometer of the person being copied, otherwise the spirit and spirit ability I copied will become ineffective. Besides that, although I can copy multiple spirits, I can only use one spirit at a time." Upon hearing this, the crowd immediately looked enlightened. Looking at it this way, although Yang Yuan's spirit could be considered a top-tier spirit, that was all it was. However, this was how it should be. If Yang Yuan's spirit were truly that omnipotent, they would have felt it was unrealistic. Now everyone felt much more balanced. Yu Tianheng also regained his confidence. He admitted that Yang Yuan's spirit was very strong, but the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon martial soul was not weak either. Moreover, Yang Yuan also said that the more powerful the spirit, the more difficult it was for him to copy. Therefore, Yu Tianheng was not afraid of Yang Yuan. If the two were to fight, Yu Tianheng was fully confident that he could weigh Yang Yuan down. Afterwards, everyone asked Yang Yuan many more questions, and Yang Yuan answered them all by spouting nonsense. However, everyone still believed Yang Yuan's explanation, including the origin of his 2,000-year spirit rings. After all, Yang Yuan was still so young, how could he possibly lie? Yu Tianheng sat in his seat expressionless. All of Yang Yuan's answers were recorded in his mind word for word, and a flash of jealousy couldn't help but flicker in his eyes. Damn it! How does Yang Yuan, a mere commoner, deserve to have such good luck? Innate full spirit power, 1,000-year first and second rings. Think of me, a legitimate descendant of the dignified Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family, possessing a top-tier spirit of the world, and I haven't had such encounters. Yu Tianheng had always been conceited. But at this moment, his envy and jealousy towards Yang Yuan were almost enough to cloud his reason. Beside Yang Yuan, Dougu whispered in a slightly resentful voice, "Younger brother Yang Yuan, you really hid it well. Even sister didn't know that you were hiding such great ability." Yang Yuan said with an innocent face, "Who told sister Dougu not to ask me?" Laughing and chatting, the day passed in a flash. Crown Prince's mansion. Yang Yuan's performance in the Heaven Do Great Spirit arena soon reached Qian Rengxu's ears. In the study, Qian Rengxu had already restored her disguise at this moment, looking like she was in her early 20s. With a straight nose and square mouth, dressed in cyan robes, she gave people a refreshing feeling like a spring breeze. Snake Lance Douluo stood on her left side, his figure as straight as a javelin. And on her right side was an old man of medium build, neither fat nor thin. He was one of Qian Rengxu's right-hand men, Porcupinefish Douluo. After finishing the letter in her hand, Qian Rengxu's eyes lit up, and she handed it to Snake Lance Douluo. She sighed, "I really didn't expect that little brother Yang actually had such a trick. He really gave me another big surprise." Upon hearing about Yang Yuan, Snake Lance Douluo couldn't help but look at the letter Qian Renxiu had handed over. The letter recorded Yang Yuan's performance in the Heaven Do Great Spirit arena. Even the functions and limitations of Yang Yuan's martial soul were all recorded in detail on the letter. After reading the contents of the letter, Snake Lance Douluo was greatly shocked. I didn't expect that this little guy Yang Yuan's spirit actually had such a function. What a terrifying spirit. Although this kind of spirit has great limitations, it still cannot be underestimated. Beside them, Porcupinefish Douluo looked curiously at the letter in Snake Lance Douluo's hand, feeling curious. He had heard Snake Lance Douluo mention Yang Yuan and knew that he was a genius with talent, no less than the young lords. So he wondered what exactly was written on the letter that made both the young lord and Snake Lance Douluo so surprised. Seeing this, Snake Lance Douluo casually passed the letter to Porcupinefish Douluo. At this moment, a gleam flashed in Qian Renxiu's eyes, and she suddenly asked a question. Elder Snake Lance, tell me, does little brother Yang's spirit really have the limitations he mentioned? Chapter 39, Meeting Dougu for the first time, a meeting gift, wishful 100 treasure purse. This, I suppose there is. Snake Lance Douluo was stunned, then instinctively replied. But as soon as he finished speaking, his thoughts returned to when Yang Yuan absorbed his second spirit ring not long ago. Thinking of that earth-shattering phenomenon, Snake Lance Douluo immediately became uncertain again. How could something that could cause such a phenomenon be an ordinary spirit? He had been puzzled before. The abilities displayed by Yang Yuan's spirit did not match such a phenomenon. Now it seems that the ability to copy the opponent's spirit and spirit ability is likely the real reason Yang Yuan's spirit could cause such a phenomenon. And if the limitations Yang Yuan mentioned are true, then the quality of his spirit would inevitably not reach the level required to trigger such celestial phenomena. Qian Renxiu's gaze was deep and wise. I previously held a glimmer of hope, feeling that the quality of my angel's spirit was no worse than little brother Yang's heavy pupils user. Now it seems I underestimated the quality of his spirit. From now on, the title of the continent's #1 spirit will likely change hands. Snake Lance Douluo and Porcupinefish Douluo were shocked upon hearing this. Porcupinefish Douluo said in a deep voice, "Young lord, this matter is of great importance. In my opinion, it would be better to pass this information to the high priest so that he may also be aware of it. Such a genius should be firmly kept in our hands." After listening, Qian Renxiu frowned. "Do not mention this again. And certainly do not act on your own without my authorization. As for little brother Yang, I have my own arrangements." Seeing this, Porcupinefish Douluo hurriedly said, "I will obey the young lord's command." Qian Renxiu gazed into the distance, raised her hand to touch her chin, and muttered to herself. "It seems I need to visit Heaven Do Academy more often." Heaven Do Academy. Yang Yuan made a stunning debut at the Heaven Do Great Spirit arena. Overnight, he became a celebrity throughout the entire academy. Even the 3 committee members were alarmed and became very interested in his spirit. Although Yang Yuan's spirit had severe limitations, the effects it displayed were still worthy of being called one of the top-tier spirits in the world. Only a few spirits, such as the Clear Sky Hammer, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon, and the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Pagoda, could compare to it. In the following days, apart from his daily cultivate, Yang Yuan would still take time every day to participate in a spirit battle at the Heaven Do Great Spirit arena. And in every battle, his opponents, without exception, would be defeated by their own spirits and signature spirit abilities. The reputation of the Heavy Pupils user also grew increasingly loud. Unfortunately, as his fame grew larger, his odds became lower and lower. After all, the Heaven Do Great Spirit arena was not a charity. One day, Dougu Yan sought out Yang Yuan. "Younger brother Yang Yuan, let's go. Today I will take you to meet my grandfather." Yang Yuan readily agreed, as if he could already see the immortal herb beckoning to him. Outside Dougu Mansion, Dougu Yan said to Yang Yuan, Younger brother Yang Yuan, after you see my grandfather in a moment, just treat him as your own grandfather. There's no need to be nervous. Yang Yuan chuckled, placing both hands behind his neck. His expression relaxed, and he even had the leisure to tease. Sister Dougu, does this count as me meeting your parents? Upon hearing this, Dougu Yan's gaze lingered on Yang Yuan's delicate face for a moment, and a flush of red flashed across her cheeks. But as soon as she thought of Yang Yuan's age, she was frightened into quickly dismissing the thought. Younger brother Yang Yuan is only 8 years old. What am I letting my imagination run wild for? After composing her emotions, Dougu Yan said crossly, Younger brother Yang Yuan, you really are a precocious little brat. All right, come in with sister. I hope you are as glib when you see my grandfather in a moment. By the way, my grandfather's temper isn't very good. After speaking, Dougu Yan walked in front to lead Yang Yuan into Dougu Mansion. Yang Yuan followed behind Dougu Yan, shrugged his shoulders, and looked completely indifferent. If others didn't know, didn't he know? Although Dougu Bo's personality was eccentric and strange, he was absolutely impeccable when treating his benefactors. If Tang San were replaced by Zyro Yan, Dougu Bo would definitely be considered a second Hai Bo Dong. What a pity! After entering the mansion, Dougu Yan immediately shouted, Grandfather, I'm back. Soon, a dark green figure floated over from outside the door like a ghost. Yan Yitan. Dougu Bo replied, appearing in front of Dougu Yan. But his gaze lingered on Yang Yuan, revealing a look of surprise. Although Dougu Yan had mentioned Yang Yuan's age to him, seeing Yang Yuan for the first time, he was still shocked by the latter's young appearance. It was hard to imagine that an 8-year-old child could actually solve the spirit poison that even he could not solve. You must be Yang Yuan. I am Yan Yan's grandfather, Dougu Bo. Junior Yang Yuan greets Senior Dougu. Yang Yuan bowed respectfully. Seeing this, Dougu Bo waved his hand casually. Don't be polite with me. You cured Yan Yan's spirit poison, which is a massive favor to my Dougu family. If you don't mind this old man, then just like Yan Yan, call me grandfather. A sincere smile appeared on Dougu Bo's slightly gloomy face. Grandpa Dougu. Yang Yuan called out without the slightest psychological burden. Anyway, Dougu Bo's age was certainly enough to be his grandfather. Hearing this, Dougu Bo immediately burst into laughter. Good, good. Meeting for the first time, grandfather didn't have time to prepare any gifts for you. Take this first. Consider it a small token of grandfather's affection. After speaking, Dougu Bo took out a blue leather pouch from who knows where and handed it to Yang Yuan. While introducing it, this item is called the Wishful 100 treasure purse, and it is a spirit tool for storage. However, it has a function that other spirit tools do not have. That is the ability to store living things. Upon hearing this, Yang Yuan's eyes lit up after taking the Wishful 100 treasure purse. As expected of Dougu Bo, opulent. This Wishful 100 treasure purse alone was already priceless. He wouldn't trade it for 1,000,000 gold coins. Seeing her grandfather and Yang Yuan getting along harmoniously, Dougu Yan couldn't help but smile brightly on the side. All right, don't just stand there. Sit down and talk. Dougu Bo couldn't help but laugh loudly. Yan Yan is right. Subsequently, the three sat down one after another. Dougu Bo expressed his gratitude to Yang Yuan again. Little fellow, since you called me grandfather, I will take the liberty of calling you Zyro Yuan. You removed the spirit poison from Yan Yan. To Yan Yan, this is no different from the grace of a second life. Let's separate matters. The Wishful 100 treasure purse from just now was only a meeting gift for you. The reward for curing Yan Yan will be calculated separately. My Dougu family has always repaid kindness, so Zyro Yuan, if there is any way you need Grandpa Dougu, just ask. Yang Yuan grinned. All right, if there is a place where I need Grandpa Dougu, I will definitely not be polite. Ha ha ha, that's right. Dougu Bo laughed loudly. Yang Yuan's frankness was very much to his liking. After some casual chat, the host and guests were all happy. Dougu Yan pulled Yang Yuan, acting as if she were acting spoiled. Younger brother Yang Yuan quickly quickly see how grandfather's condition is. Grandfather is also afflicted with spirit poison. Do you see if it can be cured? Once these words were spoken, Doulouo couldn't help but look at Yang Yuan, with a hint of expectation in his eyes. But he knew clearly in his heart that his own condition was more than 10 times worse than his granddaughter's. Although Yang Yuan could solve the spirit poison on Doulouo, he might not necessarily be able to solve the spirit poison on himself. Therefore, Doulouo did not hold much hope in his heart. However, Yang Yuan's gaze only lingered on Doulouo for a few seconds before he smiled and spat out 2 words. Can cure. Chapter 40, Ice and Fire Yin Yang Well. Doulouo has a sudden inspiration. It can be cured. The moment those words left Yang Yuan's mouth, Doulouo and Doulouo's faces immediately filled with wild joy. Doulouo shook Yang Yuan's arm. Younger brother Yang Yuan, is what you're saying really true? Naturally. However, I see that the toxins in Grandpa Doulouo's body are more than dozens of times greater than Sister Doulouo's. Normally, even with Grandpa Doulouo's powerful cultivation to suppress it, the toxins should have erupted by now. But I see that although Grandpa Doulouo's current situation is not optimistic, his life is not in danger. As he spoke, Yang Yuan looked at Doulouo with a look of curiosity. Grandpa Doulouo, could it be that you've taken some heaven and earth treasure to suppress the spread of the toxins in your body? Ha ha ha, Zyro Yuan, I didn't expect you to be able to see even this. No wonder you're confident in curing the spirit poison in my body. However, I haven't taken any heaven and earth treasure. Yang Yuan became even more curious. Doulouo didn't keep him in suspense and said with a hint of pride, although I haven't taken any heaven and earth treasure, I do have a medicine garden. In this medicine garden, not only are various rare medicinal herbs grown, but it also has a special miraculous effect that can suppress the spread of the toxins in my body. Doulouo also smiled and said, I know that place too. Unfortunately, Grandpa says my spirit power level isn't high enough. If I cultivate there for a long time, not only will I be unable to suppress the toxins, but it will also harm my body. Yang Yuan's eyes lit up, pretending to be surprised. There's such a precious place. With the help of this precious place, perhaps I can solve Grandpa Doulouo's problem even more easily. Doulouo laughed heartily. In that case, why don't we just go to the Ice and Fire Yin Yang Well and see for ourselves? Sunset Forest is located 100 li outside of Heaven Du City. And Doulouo's Ice and Fire Yin Yang Well is located deep within the Sunset Forest. On the way, Doulouo gave his granddaughter a helpless look. Yan, Zyro Yuan and I could have come alone. Why did you have to follow? Doulouo said crossly, Grandpa, stop worrying so much. It's not like I'm going to stay in the medicine garden forever. Fine. Since she had already come along, Doulouo naturally couldn't send Doulouo back. The 3 of them then traveled along and soon entered a poison formation. Doulouo's spirit power surged around him, directly opening an invisible domain that kept the poisonous mist in the poison formation at least 30 feet away from the 3 of them. The Ice and Fire Yin Yang Well was located in an inverted cone-shaped valley behind the poison formation. The 3 of them quickly passed through the poison formation and reached the top of a peak. Below, on the other side of the peak, was the valley where the Ice and Fire Yin Yang Well was located. Doulouo smiled and said to Yang Yuan and Doulouo, I'll take you down. Yang Yuan shook his head. No need for such trouble. Having said that, a flash of chaos light flickered within his double pupils, and a pair of azure wings suddenly spread out from his back. Doulouo and Doulouo were startled. Doulouo stammered slightly, Younger brother Yang Yuan, is this also a spirit copied by your martial soul? But didn't you say that once a copied spirit is more than a kilometer away from the person it was copied from, it would lose its effect? That's because I was just talking nonsense. Behind Yang Yuan, the pair of azure wings moved, instantly stirring up a strong gale. After hearing this, Doulouo said coquettishly, since you didn't mention such an important secret before, why show it in front of me and Grandpa now? Aren't you afraid we'll spread it around? Yang Yuan asked back nonchalantly, then will Sister Doulouo spread my secret? Of course not, Doulouo replied with a firm tone. Exactly. The reason I'm willing to reveal my secrets in front of Sister Dougal and Grandpa Dougal is naturally because I trust you. As soon as he said this, both Dougal Yan and Dougal Bo felt a warmth in their hearts. This feeling of being trusted was hard not to be moved by. Yang Yuan finished speaking and reached out his hand. Sister Dougal, I'll take you down. A look of interest flashed across Dougal Yan's face, and she smilingly reached out her hand. After Yang Yuan grabbed her hand, he immediately felt a sense of coldness. Grandpa Dougal, we're going down first. Having said that, Yang Yuan pushed off with his toes, and holding Dougal Yan's hand, leaped down the cliff. Dougal Bo watched the two flying down and rubbed his chin. Suddenly, he had a sudden inspiration and grinned. Then he also leaped down. On the other side, Yang Yuan took Dougal Yan for a circle in midair before landing steadily. A rich surge of ice and fire energy immediately rushed toward them. Yang Yuan looked up. He saw a miraculous pool sitting in the center of the valley not far away. All the ice and fire energy in the valley originated from that pool. One half of this pool was crimson, like volcanic lava, emitting billowing heat. The other half was milky white, shrouded in cold mist and emitting a freezing aura. The two distinct halves of the pool water appeared clearly separated, not encroaching upon each other, forming a magnificent and spectacular sight. Seeing the ice and fire yin-yang well for the first time, Yang Yuan couldn't help but show a look of surprise. Around the ice and fire yin-yang well, various exotic flowers and rare plants were growing. Although Yang Yuan didn't recognize these exotic flowers and rare plants, with his double pupils, he could see through the origin of all things in the world. So even if he didn't recognize these exotic flowers and rare plants, Yang Yuan could still be familiar with their medicinal properties. At this time, Dougal Bo also flew down from the top of the peak. Noticing Yang Yuan's gaze, he laughed and pointed at the spiritual flowers and spiritual plants around the ice and fire yin-yang well, his face showing a look of pride. This medicine garden is my entire fortune. It can be said that any spiritual plant picked from here would fetch an astronomical price outside. Beside Yang Yuan, Dougal Yan whispered, "Younger brother Yang Yuan, if you take a fancy to any spiritual plant in the medicine garden, just tell me. But you must be careful. Among these spiritual plants, there are many poisonous ones that contain potent toxins, which shouldn't be of any use to you." Seeing this, Dougal Bo's face showed a meaningful smile. Yan Yan is right, Zyro Yuan, if you take a fancy to any spiritual plant, just tell me. We are all family, don't be polite with me. All family. Yang Yuan was stunned and subconsciously looked at the blushing Dougal Yan beside him. He immediately guessed the meaning behind Dougal Bo's words, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Did Dougal Bo have a sudden inspiration and want to find a grandson-in-law for himself? However, he was only 8 years old. Wasn't he being a bit too impatient? Of course, Yang Yuan certainly wouldn't have the slightest aversion to Dougal Bo's idea. After all, he wished for more of such good things where he could gain both wealth and beauty. At this time, Dougal Yan, with a shy expression, changed the subject. Younger brother Yang Yuan, take a look at this place. Can it help you solve the spirit poison in Grandpa's body more easily? Yang Yuan replied calmly, "Rest assured, Sister Dougal. With the help of this precious land, solving Grandpa Dougal's problem is as easy as turning over my hand." That's great. The shyness on Dougal Yan's face was masked by pleasant surprise. Dougal Bo's aged body trembled slightly, his eyes filled with the dawn of liberation. Was he finally going to escape that damned toxin erosion? Chapter 41, Detoxifying Dougal Bo, Only Schemes Win Hearts. The edge of the ice and fire yin-yang well. Dougal Bo sat cross-legged on a bluestone, listening to Yang Yuan's instructions. Senior Dougal, the toxins in your body are more than dozens of times denser than those in Sister Dougal's body. Therefore, I cannot force all the toxins in your body to one place to remove them like I did for her. It can only be done slowly. After hearing this, Dougal Bo smiled and said, "Zyro Yuan, just tell me what I should do." Yang Yuan waved his hand casually. "It's not that complicated. In a moment, I will gradually clear the toxins from Grandpa Dougal's body. However, as the meridians and limbs of a person's body are interconnected, Grandpa Dougu will need to temporarily suppress the spread of the remaining toxins after I clear a portion of them. With the help of this precious land's functions, this shouldn't be a difficult task for Grandpa Dougu. Dougu Bo said confidently, "Don't worry. Although I can't resolve the toxins in my body, controlling them briefly is no problem." "That's good." After speaking, Yang Yuan walked behind Dougu Bo. Spirit power surged within him as he pressed a palm against Dougu Bo's back. The next second, Yang Yuan's left eye instantly turned silver, and a cluster of milky white light shot out from his left eye, passing through his palm into Dougu Bo's body. Such dense life energy. As this life force power entered Dougu Bo's body, he was startled. He instantly sensed that the toxins in a small area of his body had been completely eliminated by this life energy. One must know that the toxins in his body were the jade phosphor serpent poison, dozens of times more terrifying than the toxins in Yan Yan's body. Thinking about how this toxin, which had tortured him for decades, was cleared so easily by Yang Yuan. Besides being pleasantly surprised, Dougu Bo also felt an extremely complex emotion. At the same time, Dougu Bo did not forget to mobilize the ice and fire energy radiating from the ice and fire yin-yang well to suppress the spread of toxins in other areas of his body. Not far away, expectation and anxiety flashed in Dougu Yan's beautiful eyes as she silently prayed for her grandfather in her heart. Half an hour later, Dougu Bo suddenly let out a clear whistle. He was full of energy, and his aura was majestic. The toxins in his body had already been cleared away by Yang Yuan using the life force power of the Double Pupils. Even some old internal injuries in his body recovered under the effect of this life force power. But this was normal. After all, in the original work, Tang San was able to clear the poison in Dougu Bo's body relying solely on his blood, which contained the medicinal power of two immortal herbs, the octagonal mysterious ice grass and the infernal apricot. Moreover, Yang Yuan was using the life force power of the Double Pupils, which was far more effective than Tang San's blood in the original work. At this moment, Yang Yuan said in a deep voice, "Don't rush, there's still one last step." A flash of brilliance crossed Yang Yuan's eyes, as the light of chaos flickered within them. He instantly saw through the problem with Dougu Bo's spirit. He had only cleared the toxins on the surface of Dougu Bo's body. But as long as the problem with Dougu Bo's spirit remained unresolved, he would still be poisoned as time passed. Therefore, to solve it once and for all, the issue with the spirit had to be addressed. Yang Yuan mobilized all his spirit power, and his left eye shot out another beam of life force power, enveloping Dougu Bo. A moment later, an earth-shaking aura erupted from Dougu Bo's body once again. As the milky white life force power dissipated, Dougu Bo's dark green hair and eyebrows actually returned to a half-white, half-black state, and a look of unbridled spirit appeared on his face. His eyes were filled with ecstasy and a long-lost sense of high spirits. Ever since breaking through to become a titled Douluo, his spirit power level had not progressed an inch because he had to suppress the toxins in his body. But now, with Yang Yuan's help, he had not only resolved the poison in his spirit, but also took the opportunity to break through to rank 92 in one go. The moment he broke through his rank, Dougu Bo's wide robes fluttered loudly, and a majestic surge of spirit power erupted from his body. Seeing this, Yang Yuan took a few steps back. However, a feeling of being completely drained suddenly welled up in his heart, and his legs went weak. Seeing this, Dougu Yan, who had been watching the movements here closely, rushed forward and caught Yang Yuan from behind. "Little brother Yuan, are you all right?" Yang Yuan leaned weakly in Dougu Yan's arms and said in a relaxed tone, "Don't worry, I'm fine. As long as I can cure Grandpa Dougu, it's all worth it." As the saying goes, deep feelings since ancient times cannot be kept. Only schemes can win people's hearts. To save Dougu Bo, Yang Yuan had practically drained his spirit power, so he naturally had to employ some schemes to maximize his benefits. Sure enough, when Dougu Yan heard that Yang Yuan was still thinking of her grandfather, she couldn't help but be moved. Yang Yuan must be putting in so much effort to treat her grandfather for the sake of her face. Looking at Yang Yuan's pale face, Dougu Yan felt distressed and thought to herself, "If I had known, I would have waited until little brother Yuan's rank was higher before begging him to treat Grandpa." Anyway, Grandpa's cultivation is profound. He probably wouldn't die anytime soon. Look at how exhausted little brother Yuan is now. He can't even stand steadily. If anything were to happen to him, I'm afraid I would die of guilt. Noticing the situation here, Doulouo hurriedly restrained his aura and spirit power. Arriving in front of the two, he quickly took out a light green medicinal pill from his storage soul tool and fed it to Yang Yuan. Doulouo said, "This pill is a tonic pill I refined from several rare medicinal herbs. Although it's not exactly a spirit pill, the energy it contains is enough for Ziro Yuan to recover." Doulouo Yan hurriedly asked from the side, "Little brother Yuan, do you feel better now?" After taking the pill, Yang Yuan's pale face instantly regained some color. He smiled and said, "Don't worry, Sister Doulouo, I feel much better now." Seeing this, Doulouo Yan finally breathed a sigh of relief. Doulouo said solemnly, "Ziro Yuan, first you cured Yan Yan, and now you've cured me. I really don't know how to thank you." Yang Yuan chuckled and teased. "Grandpa Doulouo, you're being too formal. Did you say before that we're all family?" "Haha, you're right. We are all family. Being calculative about such things would indeed be formal." Doulouo's gaze swept over Yang Yuan and Doulouo Yan, and he looked pleased. It was originally just a sudden thought, but now, the grandson-in-law must be none other than Yang Yuan. It's just that Yang Yuan is still young. Otherwise, he would have secretly slipped some aphrodisiac to let the two children cook the raw rice into cooked rice and strive for 2 Barbies in 3 years. What a pity. Doulouo felt regretful in his heart. Before long, Yang Yuan had completely recovered. As his double pupils opened and closed, countless energies from the ice and fire yin yang well surged frantically into his body. With the help of the medicinal power of that pill just now, Yang Yuan took the opportunity to break through to rank 25. Seeing this, Doulouo and Doulouo Yan both showed joyful expressions on their faces. Little brother Yuan has broken through. An 8-year-old rank 25 spirit grandmaster, Ziro Yuan is truly terrifying. With his talent, I'm afraid that in another 20 or 30 years, the title of the continent's youngest titled Douluo will change hands. Chapter 42, Immortal Herb Forging Body, Supreme Bone Anomaly. After dinner, Yang Yuan and Doulouo Yan came to the medicine garden. The latter enthusiastically introduced the spiritual plants in the medicine garden to Yang Yuan. She didn't recognize all the spiritual plants in the medicine garden, but she knew at least most of them. Most of the spiritual plants she recognized were exotic species that Doulouo had transplanted into the medicine garden from outside. As for the immortal herbs that originally grew outside the ice and fire yin-yang well, let alone Doulouo Yan, even Doulouo didn't recognize all of them. Yang Yuan listened to what Doulouo said. Among those spiritual plants, the only one he recognized was a single Kai Rong Tong Tian chrysanthemum. The main reason he recognized the Kai Rong Tong Tian chrysanthemum was because his old rival, Chrysanthemum Douluo, had the Kai Rong Tong Tian chrysanthemum as his spirit. However, Doulouo only recognized it and didn't know the effects of the Kai Rong Tong Tian chrysanthemum. After a tour, Yang Yuan, Doulouo, and Doulouo Yan stood before a golden gourd-shaped object the size of 2 fists. Doulouo asked in surprise, "Ziro Yuan, can you really discern the medicinal properties of these immortal herbs?" Yang Yuan smiled calmly and said, "My spirit can see through the essence of things, so discerning the medicinal properties of spiritual plants is naturally no problem." Doulouo couldn't help but sigh. What a miraculous spirit. In front of your spirit, I'm afraid even Spirit Hall's Angel Martial Soul wouldn't be impressive. Doulouo Yan, on the other hand, curiously pointed at the golden sweet potato the size of 2 fists in front of them and asked, "So little brother Yuan, is there anything special about this golden sweet potato in front of us?" Doulouo also cast a curious gaze. Since Yang Yuan could discern the medicinal properties of spiritual plants and brought them to this golden sweet potato, there must be another reason. Yang Yuan nodded, then explained, "This golden sweet potato is an extremely rare spirit medicine, and I can see that it contains extremely rich energy within." That's it. Doulouo instinctively felt that this golden sweet potato in front of him was not simple. But if it only contained rich energy, then it didn't seem to have anything special about it. His medicine garden cultivated many spirit medicines, and there were quite a few among them that contained rich energy. However, he didn't recognize this golden sweet potato in front of him. He originally thought it was just an ordinary spirit medicine. Yang Yuan noticed the doubt on Douluo's face, immediately squatted down, and reached out to prod the golden sweet potato in front of him. This is no ordinary sweet potato. The energy it contains is enough to rank in the top 10 of the entire medicine garden, and it also contains a trace of extremely pure true dragon power. I can only say that this sweet potato is of immense benefit to both Sister Douluo and Grandpa Douluo. This benefit is not only an improvement in spirit power level, but also an improvement at the spirit level. As soon as these words were spoken, Yuan didn't feel much, but a sharp gleam burst forth in Douluo's eyes. An improvement at the spirit level. Doesn't that mean this golden sweet potato might help him and his granddaughter's spirits evolve? If that were truly the case, then the effect of this golden sweet potato would be enormous. Douluo immediately said in a deep voice, "I'm an old man now, I don't need this thing." Upon hearing this, Yuan quickly shook her head. "Grandpa, you should eat it. My talent is limited, so giving this treasure to me would be a waste." Seeing this, Yang Yuan smiled. "All right, you two don't need to pass it back and forth. Grandpa Douluo's medicine garden has more than just this one good thing." Douluo was startled to hear this. What other treasures in this medicine garden could compare with this golden sweet potato? Yang Yuan led the two to a pure white, crystal-clear orchid. He recognized this flower. It was the 8-petal immortal orchid that Oscar consumed in the first part of the original work. The 8-petal immortal orchid has mild and mellow medicinal properties. It can strengthen the foundation, cultivate the original Kai, cleanse the meridians, remove impurities from the body, and increase a spirit master's cultivation speed. Among the many immortal herbs, it is considered upper middle grade. Although not as suitable for Douluo and Yuan as the Earth Dragon Golden Gourd, it still offers endless benefits. After smiling and introducing the effects of the 8-petal immortal orchid, Yang Yuan said to the grandfather and granddaughter, "Grandpa Douluo can consume the golden sweet potato from before, and as for Sister Douluo, you can consume this orchid to compensate for the deficiency of your innate spirit power." Yuan heard this and said wistfully, "I never thought that I, with my magnificent innate rank 7 spirit power, would one day be called innate deficient." Douluo chuckled beside her. Yan, Grandpa's innate spirit power is rank 9, and little Yuan's innate spirit power is undoubtedly rank 10. Compared to us, isn't your innate spirit power a deficiency? Upon hearing this, Yuan couldn't help but stamp her foot in anger. Can't this damned innate spirit power be a little higher? While the two were talking, Yang Yuan had already carefully plucked the 8-petal immortal orchid and handed it to Yuan. "Sister Douluo, just consume it right here. There's no need for any special procedure. Just chew and swallow it, then circulate your spirit power to refine it." Yuan was about to take the 8-petal immortal orchid, but suddenly remembered something, and her hand, extended halfway, immediately stopped. "Little brother Yuan, is this orchid useful to you?" Yang Yuan instantly saw through Yuan's thoughts and smiled. "Sister Douluo, just take it and don't worry. There are other spirit medicines in the medicine garden suitable for me." Only then did Yuan confidently take the 8-petal immortal orchid, then sat cross-legged on the spot under the gaze of Douluo and Yang Yuan, and began to consume and refine it. Yang Yuan's heavy pupils flashed, instantly seeing clearly the process of the 8-petal immortal orchid being refined by Yuan. Direct consumption would inevitably lead to the loss and waste of the immortal herb's medicinal power. Seeing this, Yang Yuan's left eye turned silver, and milky white life force power instantly shot out from his left eye, enveloping Yuan and specifically blocking the dissipating medicinal power. After doing all this, Yang Yuan stood there and guarded for a while longer. Douluo, standing nearby, spoke. "Zyro Yuan, didn't you just say there were other spirit medicines in the medicine garden suitable for you? Go and consume them. Grandpa will be your protector." "Okay." Yang Yuan didn't act coy either. His gaze swept around, first landing on a large purple chrysanthemum not far away. It was the Kai Rong Tong Tian chrysanthemum. The Kai Rong Tong Tian chrysanthemum presented a magnificent purple color, the entire chrysanthemum appearing as a seamless whole, without any fragrance overflowing. The central stamen was half a foot taller than the petals, shining with a faint golden luster. The Kai Rong Tong Tian chrysanthemum is a neutral immortal herb. After consumption, it can unblock the 4 limbs and 8 meridians and cultivate an indestructible body. The original description was naturally exaggerated, but it did have its uses. Walking forward, Yang Yuan directly coated his hand with a layer of life force power, then casually plucked the Kai Rong Tong Tian chrysanthemum, sat down on the spot, and began to consume it. After a while, the entire Kai Rong Tong Tian chrysanthemum was swallowed by Yang Yuan. His body surface was consequently enveloped in a faint golden glow. At the same time, inside his body, a precious bone, clear as jade, shone brightly, radiating dazzling light. Upon it, dense, profound runes seemed to come alive, evolving into small black holes that frantically absorbed the energy of the Kai Rong Tong Tian chrysanthemum. Yang Yuan's consciousness trembled. He could perceive that a divine ability prototype was condensing on the supreme bone within his body. Chapter 43, Absorbing the Energy of the Water and Fire Dragon Kings, My Rules Are the Rules. A numbing, tingling sensation swept through his entire body, the pleasure rushing straight to his crown. Following closely was a profound and mysterious sense of epiphany. Not far away, Doulouo watched as Yang Yuan's precious body glowed with radiance. A dazzling golden light erupted from his chest, and the shape of a bone became vaguely visible. Could it be that this is a spirit bone? But even a torso bone shouldn't grow there, right? No, that's not right. Could it be that what is in Zyro Yuan's chest is the legendary external spirit bone? Doulouo's gaze narrowed, and countless thoughts flashed through his mind, but not a single one was greed. To him, no matter how precious a spirit bone was, it couldn't compare to his and Yan Yan's lives. In addition, the spirit bone in Yang Yuan's body resolved a confusion in Doulouo's heart. No wonder Yang Yuan could reach level 25 at such a young age. Even if he had innate full spirit power, there was no reason for him to cultivate so quickly. But if he had also absorbed a spirit bone, then everything made sense. Moreover, intuition told Doulouo that the quality of this spirit bone in Yang Yuan's chest was likely not low. At this thought, Doulouo smiled enviously. What a lucky little guy, as expected of the grandson-in-law I've chosen. Time passed, and half an hour went by in an instant. Yang Yuan's eyes suddenly snapped open. Not enough, it's still far from enough. Yang Yuan murmured to himself, then suddenly turned his gaze toward the ice and fire yin-yang well. In the next second, he dashed rapidly toward the ice and fire yin-yang well. Zyro Yuan. Seeing this, Doulouo's expression changed, and he cried out in alarm. The extreme heat and extreme cold in those 2 springs were things even he couldn't withstand for long, let alone Yang Yuan, who was just a mere spirit grandmaster. However, by the time Doulouo shouted, Yang Yuan had already leaped and jumped into the intersection of the ice and fire springs. The next second, golden light blossomed from the supreme bone, protecting Yang Yuan. A golden black hole vortex seemed to appear in his chest, erupting with a suction force that reached the heavens and the earth. The entire Li line shook along with it, 10,000 feet beneath the ice and fire yin-yang well. An ice blue and a crimson-red pillar of light, accompanied by the sound of dragon roars, soared into the sky from beneath the ice and fire yin-yang well. In an instant, the entire ice and fire yin-yang well began to grow frantically, as if 10,000 trees were returning to spring. All the surrounding vegetation seemed to come alive, their life aura skyrocketing. What exactly is going on with those 2 pillars of light? Why do they give me such a terrifying sense of oppression? Thinking back to the red and blue light pillars that had just erupted from the ice and fire springs, Doulouo's face still showed lingering fear. Even Doulouo was seeing such a sight for the first time. However, he was currently more worried about Yang Yuan. He saw Yang Yuan's body floating at the intersection of the ice and fire springs, with dazzling golden light erupting from his chest. On that spirit bone in front of his chest, countless runes flowed, circling and spiraling around his body. The two streams of blue and red energy continuously poured into Yang Yuan's body. Douluo watched with a trembling heart, fearing that Yang Yuan's body would be burst by these two terrifying energies in the next second. After all, these were two energies that even he, a titled Douluo, found intensely oppressive. As time passed, Yang Yuan's body became covered in golden threads, looking like a silkworm cocoon. Seeing that Yang Yuan was not in trouble, Douluo finally breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, in a crystal palace beneath the Lake of Life, at the core of the Stardew Great Forest, the Silver Dragon King opened her eyes once again, her gaze filled with astonishment. These two auras. It's the Water Dragon King and the Fire Dragon King. Could it be that they are still alive? No, that's not right. If they were still alive, it would be impossible for me not to sense them. God Realm. Above the sea of clouds, the rosy light of dawn shone everywhere, and auspicious colors streamed in thousands of rays. Beneath an ancient tree that seemed to have existed forever, emanating a sense of ancient vicissitudes and a majestic life aura, the goddess of life and the god of destruction were sitting at a stone table sipping tea. Suddenly, a look of astonishment appeared in both their eyes, and their gazes simultaneously turned toward the lower realm. This commotion was caused by that little guy again. Life smiled and said, "What a remarkable little fellow." Destruction said expressionlessly, "I am more curious about that bone in his chest. That bone, just like his pair of eyes, doesn't seem like something the Douluo star could nurture at all. I feel an extremely terrifying potential from it." The goddess of life smiled faintly. "Isn't it a good thing that his potential is stronger? This way, he can also help us share a lot of the pressure." Destruction nodded slightly upon hearing this. In the battle years ago, too many gods fell, so much so that the god realm has still not recovered to this day. At this time, if a powerful rising star could appear, it would not only greatly reduce the burden on the god realm, but also enhance the god realm's foundation. At this moment, the god of destruction suddenly seemed to think of something. "By the way, I heard that the sea god Asura and Rakshasa all intend to find successors on the Douluo star. We can't let them intercept this little guy halfway." The goddess of life said hesitantly, "They probably wouldn't do that, would they? After all, this little guy's spirit doesn't match their god positions." Destruction sneered and said, "Those guys have long wanted to leave the god realm to explore the universe. If they discover someone with such prodigy talent at this time, they won't care if it matches or not." The goddess of life's expression changed slightly upon hearing this. For countless ages, the reason she and Destruction had never passed on their god positions was because they weren't in a hurry to roam the universe, and they hadn't encountered a suitable successor. Choosing a successor was no trivial matter. If the compatibility was not right, it would naturally be impossible to exert 100% of the power of the corresponding god position. For example, if a powerhouse skilled in manipulating fire were made to control all waters and become the water god, how much of the water god's ability could he exert? Worse still, it might even affect the upper limit of cultivation. The goddess of life said in a heavy voice, "Little Purple, you are right. It's better to be safe than sorry. In that case, why don't we leave a mark on him first? That way, even if he is discovered by other gods, they won't be able to snatch our successor from us. It's just that this little guy is not only suitable to inherit your god position, but also mine. Which of our god positions should we let him inherit?" A look of conflict appeared on the goddess of life's face. The god of destruction pondered for a moment upon hearing this. "His talent cannot be wasted. Since he is suitable for both our god positions at the same time, let's give him a chance. As long as he can pass the assessments of both of us and withstand the pressure of dual god positions, then what's wrong with giving him dual god positions?" The goddess of life hesitated slightly. "Would it be against the rules for us to do this?" The god of destruction snorted coldly, his demeanor disdainful and his tone even more overbearing. He said coldly in the god realm, "Our rules are the rules. If anyone is dissatisfied, let them come find me." Chapter 44, Embryo of a Divine Ability, Manifesting Heaven and Earth. Ice and fire yin-yang well. Dougu Yan suddenly opened her eyes, her face filled with joy. She stood up excitedly, her first words being, "Little brother Yuan, I have had a breakthrough to rank 30. But the next second, looking at the surrounding scenery where all trees had returned to spring, she stared in astonishment, her excited expression replaced by shock. She looked around, then finally looked at Dougu Bo. "Grandpa, where is little brother Yuan? And why has the surrounding environment suddenly turned into this? Did it take me a very long time to refine that magical orchid?" Dougu Bo didn't know how to explain it to Dougu Yan. The things that had happened before were too bizarre. After Dougu Yan heard her grandfather finish explaining the general situation, she looked at Yang Yuan, who had turned into a golden silkworm cocoon inside the ice and fire yin-yang well, a look of worry flashing across her face. "Grandpa, little brother Yuan won't be in any trouble, will he?" Dougu Bo comforted her. "Rest assured, your little brother Yuan is blessed by heaven. This time might even be a great stroke of fortune for him." All right. Dougu Yan could only choose to trust Yang Yuan. Afterwards, Dougu Bo asked about the changes in Dougu Yan's body after absorbing the 8-petal immortal orchid. Although Dougu Yan's mood was somewhat low because of Yang Yuan's situation, she still told Dougu Bo about the changes in her body. After absorbing the 8-petal immortal orchid, her spirit power level rose from rank 27 to rank 30. She was only one spirit ring away from a breakthrough to Spirit Elder. Moreover, Dougu Yan could feel that after absorbing the spirit ring, her spirit power would likely increase by another 2 or 3 ranks. Besides the increase in spirit power level, what surprised Dougu Bo even more was that Dougu Yan's spirit had also evolved. Unfortunately, the degree of evolution was limited. It hadn't even evolved into a jade phosphor serpent. However, Dougu Yan could still clearly feel that her meditation speed was a full 50% faster than usual. Dougu Bo was naturally overjoyed by this result, and the next day, he took Dougu Yan to hunt for her 3rd spirit ring. Sure enough, after Dougu Yan absorbed the 3rd spirit ring, her spirit power level rose all the way to rank 34. And on the 3rd day after she finished absorbing the spirit ring, inside the ice and fire yin-yang well, a crack suddenly appeared on the golden silkworm cocoon. This crack was not long at first, but it quickly spread at a speed visible to the naked eye, and eventually, the entire golden silkworm cocoon fell apart. Dazzling golden light burst out from the cracks in the cocoon, instantly attracting Dougu Bo's attention. His figure flashed, and in the blink of an eye, he swept to the edge of the ice and fire yin-yang well. And just as he stood still, the golden silkworm cocoon completely split open, and a figure leaped out from it, landing beside him. He didn't look much different from before, though he seemed a bit taller, and his strong body faintly revealed a crystalline radiance, filled with an elusive divine charm. From Dougu Bo's perspective, in a trance, he actually felt that the Yang Yuan beside him didn't look like a mortal, but rather like a young deity. "Grandpa Dougu, what is that expression? Do you not recognize me?" Yang Yuan greeted him with a smile. Dougu Bo immediately reacted and laughed out loud. "How could that be? However, I was indeed startled by the commotion you caused a few days ago. What exactly happened to you? Is there any danger?" Dougu Bo asked with concern. Although he knew that it was highly likely that Yang Yuan was fine, he asked anyway. "Rest assured, Grandpa Dougu, not only am I fine, but on the contrary, I have gained a tremendous benefit." Yang Yuan smiled and replied, meeting Dougu Bo's concerned gaze. "That is good." Hearing this, Dougu Bo immediately breathed a sigh of relief and did not continue to ask. After all, everyone has their own secrets. However, Dougu Bo was a bit curious about Yang Yuan's spirit power level. He could see that earth-shaking changes had occurred in Yang Yuan. It would be no exaggeration to call it a metamorphosis. However, Yang Yuan spread his hands. "My spirit power level has not improved. It is still rank 25. "How can that be? Even Yan Yan improved by several ranks." Dougu Bo was astonished, completely unexpected that this would be the result. Given the commotion Yang Yuan had caused, he had even wondered if Yang Yuan would ascend to heaven in one step and rise 20 or 30 ranks directly. However, although Yang Yuan's rank had not changed in the slightest, there was no sign of depression on his face. After all, his real gain this time was developing his own unique supreme bone divine ability. Manifesting heaven and earth. This divine ability could enlarge his body and increase his combat power in all aspects. The taller the body, the greater the boost. If the divine ability reached perfection, his body could stand shoulder to shoulder with heaven and earth, his head could support the sky, his feet could shake the earth, and he could unleash supreme divine might. The only thing Yang Yuan regretted was that this divine ability was still just an embryo, and its divine might was limited. He didn't know how much energy he would need to feed the supreme bone to nurture this divine ability to its complete form. Even the energy under the ice and fire yin-yang well couldn't satisfy him, so there really weren't many places in the Douluo Continent that could. I am afraid only some places with miracles could be tried to see if he could freeload some energy. After chatting with Dougu Bo a few more times and understanding Dougu Yan's situation, Yang Yuan asked again. Grandpa Dougu, since Sister Dougu has already taken the 8-petal immortal orchid, you must have taken the Earth Dragon Golden Gourd, right? 8-petal immortal orchid, Earth Dragon Golden Gourd. Zyro Yuan, are these the names you gave to those 2 spirit medicines? They are quite fitting. Thinking of the appearance and effects of the 8-petal immortal orchid and the Earth Dragon Golden Gourd, Dougu Bo said in surprise. Yang Yuan smiled slightly, not intending to explain. Dougu Bo then said with high spirits, Grandpa took the Earth Dragon Golden Gourd the day before yesterday. Guess what happened? Yang Yuan laughed. If I guessed correctly, Grandpa's spirit must have evolved into a dragon, right? Dougu Bo laughed out loud upon hearing this. I really can't hide anything from you. That's right, Grandpa's spirit can now be called a Jade Phosphor Dragon Emperor. Not only that, but Grandpa's rank has even increased from rank 92 to rank 93. Although it only increased by 1 rank, Dougu Bo was still overwhelmed with excitement. After all, after a spirit master reaches rank 90, it is extremely difficult to increase by even 1 rank. Ordinary titled Douluo might not be able to make a breakthrough by 1 rank in 10 or 20 years. Yang Yuan smiled and cupped his hands, then congratulations to Grandpa Dougu. Dougu Bo couldn't help but laugh out loud. From now on, let's see who dares to say that I, Dougu Bo, am the weakest titled Douluo. Apparently, he still cared a lot about the title of weakest titled Douluo. Seeing Dougu Bo like this, Yang Yuan became interested. Not only did he want to see Dougu Bo's new spirit, but he also wanted to see what the divine ability nurtured by his supreme bone looked like. So he said, Grandpa Dougu, let's spar. Chapter 45, Dueling Dougu Bo, is this seriously a spirit grandmaster? Yang Yuan's words momentarily stunned Dougu Bo, but he quickly reacted and burst into laughter. Good, 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 since you have such an idea, Zyro Yuan, then we grandfather and grandson shall have a practice session. Yang Yuan looked around the surroundings, and after a moment of thought, he smiled and said, then let's change locations. We wouldn't want to destroy this place. No need for such trouble, let's just do it here. Dougu Bo shook his head, looking calm and composed. Seeing how confident he was, Yang Yuan didn't try to persuade him further. If they weren't changing locations, then they would fight here. Anyway, he had Dougu Bo, a titled Douluo, to back things up. A moment later, Yang Yuan and Dougu Bo arrived at a relatively open area. Dougu Bo's expression was natural, and his whole body looked exceptionally relaxed. He hooked his finger and said, Zyro Yuan, go ahead and give it your all. I won't use any spirit power. Then I won't hold back. Yang Yuan nodded slightly. In the next second, his body jolted as the spirit power within him surged, and his precious physique began to glow. At his chest, a crystal-clear precious bone released a dazzling golden light, with countless dense runes flickering. That's spirit bone again. Is Zyro Yuan planning to use a spirit bone ability? Recalling the phenomena this spirit bone had displayed before, Dougu Bo narrowed his eyes, revealing a look of curiosity, wanting to know what kind of miraculous properties this spirit bone possessed. At the same time, beneath Yang Yuan's feet, 2 purple spirit rings rose and circled around him. As the first spirit ring lit up, Yang Yuan's left eye instantly turned silver. A burst of milky white life force power erupted, enveloping his body and evolving into a silver-white armor that looked like a divine battle suit. Because his body would grow significantly taller when using manifesting heaven and earth, Yang Yuan was worried that he might burst through his clothes in a moment. So, as a precaution, he layered a suit of armor onto himself. As the supreme bone erupted with brilliant radiance, Yang Yuan's body also began to grow exponentially. Standing 30 feet tall with a robust physique, a powerful sense of pressure spread from within him, leaving Doulouo dumbfounded. Of course. What shocked Doulouo the most was that while Yang Yuan's body grew larger, his spirit power also surged instantly, reaching the level of a rank 60 spirit emperor. This. What kind of spirit ability is this? He had lived for 70 or 80 years, yet he had never heard of a spirit ability that could allow a rank 25 spirit grandmaster to suddenly become a spirit emperor. Is this still a freaking spirit grandmaster? Grandpa Doulouo, I'm about to make my move. Be careful. Hearing Yang Yuan's words, Doulouo snapped back to his senses. Although he was amazed by Yang Yuan's completely illogical spirit bone ability, he still didn't show much nervousness. Even though the spirit power aura Yang Yuan was currently emitting was comparable to a spirit emperor. As a titled Doulouo, Doulouo remained confident. Even if he didn't release his spirit or spirit power and just stood there for Yang Yuan to hit him, Yang Yuan still wouldn't be able to break his defense. Yuan, bring it on. Doulouo was calm and composed, carrying the air of a grandmaster. But next, Yang Yuan would show him just how wrong he was. On Yang Yuan's body, his double pupils opened and closed, and his right eye suddenly turned pitch black. A beam of light shot out from his eye like a flame. Upon closer inspection, one could see that this beam was not ordinary black light, but was composed of countless ancient runes. The black light was incredibly fast, emitting a terrifying aura of destruction. Even Doulouo was moved by it, his expression changed, and he instantly retracted his composed look. If this strike hit even a spirit saint, they would definitely not be able to escape unscathed. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Doulouo would never have believed that this strike actually came from the hand of a rank 25 spirit grandmaster. Without time for much thought, Doulouo waved his hand, condensing a green spirit power barrier in front of him. Just as the spirit power barrier condensed, the black light shot by Yang Yuan slammed into it and instantly exploded. Scattered destructive power spread out from the center of the green spirit power barrier, annihilating all the vegetation within a radius of over 10 yards outside the barrier, turning it into a parched and desolate wasteland. As dust flew, a look of lingering fear appeared on Doulouo's face, and a bead of cold sweat broke out on his forehead. If he hadn't used spirit power to condense a barrier at the last moment, he really couldn't guarantee that he could have remained unharmed by that black light, relying solely on his physical body. If a dignified titled Douluo were actually injured by a spirit grandmaster, he would truly lose face on a massive scale. This would be even more disgraceful than being known as the weakest titled Douluo. Opposite Doulouo, after Yang Yuan unleashed that strike, his body returned to its original state at a speed visible to the naked eye. He panted slightly, but his eyes were bright. Although that strike just now had consumed most of his spirit power, the power it unleashed made him quite satisfied. Doulouo walked out from the dust, and looking at the desolate scene around him, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Yuan, it seems I really should have listened to you and changed locations. However, the attack you just unleashed truly surprised your grandpa. Yang Yuan grinned and let out a sigh, feigning modesty. Although the power of this move is decent, it consumes way too much spirit power. I feel like at least 70% of the spirit power in my body has been drained. Looking at Yang Yuan's feigned modesty, Doulouo said irritably, "You brat, you're really getting a bargain and still acting like you're the one suffering. Do you have any idea how strong your strike just now was?" Yang Yuan thought for a moment and smiled. To be able to force Grandpa Doulouo to use spirit power, could the attack intensity have reached the spirit Douluo level? Recalling that black light emitting a destructive aura, Doulouo lamented, "You guessed right. That black light you just shot was already enough to pose a massive threat to Spirit Douluo level Spirit Master. If caught off guard, even a Spirit Douluo would be heavily injured." As he spoke, his expression turned a bit more solemn. Yuan, the ability you just displayed must never be shown to outsiders unless it's a critical moment. Otherwise, it's very likely to bring you a fatal disaster. The reason Doulouo said this was mainly because the combat power Yang Yuan displayed had completely exceeded the limits of a mortal. This heaven-defying combat power was something even Tang Chen and Qian Dailiu from decades ago couldn't compare to. No power would be willing to see a prodigy who far surpassed Tang Chen and Qian Dailiu grow up. Yang Yuan waved his hand and laughed. "Grandpa Doulouo, rest assured. I'm not that stupid, I'll hide what needs to be hidden." Only then did the solemnity on Doulouo's face fade significantly. The next day, accompanied by Doulouo, Yang Yuan returned to Heaven Du Academy. Even though he had only been away for a few short days, Yang Yuan now felt like things had changed completely. Thinking back to a few days ago, even if he used all his means, he might only be able to scrap with a Spirit King. But now he was confident he could heavily injure even a Spirit Douluo with a single strike. One must know that the 3 committee members, the strongest in Heaven Du Academy, were only Spirit Douluo. Stepping through the academy gates again, Yang Yuan feigned a sigh and looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle. This feeling, it's lonely at the top. But it feels so good. Chapter 46, Yu Tianheng's Contradiction, the Designated Crown Prince's Faction, First Meeting with Yi Lingling. Little brother Yuan. Just as Yang Yuan returned to the academy, a graceful silhouette came rushing over. Seeing that Yang Yuan was unharmed, a look of excitement and joy appeared on Doulouo Yan's pretty face. "Sister Doulouo." Yang Yuan greeted her with a smile and went to meet her. The surrounding students watched the intimate pair with faces full of envy. The male students in particular wished they could take Yang Yuan's place. These past few days, Doulouo Yan, who had returned from the ice and fire yin-yang well, could be said to have been in the spotlight. In just a few short days, she had risen from rank 27 to rank 34. Even the 3 committee members were alarmed by this news, worrying whether Doulouo Yan had taken some kind of forbidden drug. After an explanation and with Doulouo's endorsement, the 3 committee members finally believed Doulouo Yan's words. But it made sense when they thought about it. How could Doulouo possibly allow his precious granddaughter to use a forbidden drug to level up? Although such a method could allow one's spirit power level to advance by leaps and bounds in a short period, it would also greatly damage one's potential, likely resulting in the loss of any room for further growth. Doulouo could not possibly be so short-sighted. After confirming that Doulouo Yan had not used a forbidden drug to cultivate, everyone was filled with envy and began to inquire one after another, wanting to know if she had any more of these treasures that could increase one's rank. After all, who wouldn't want a treasure that could rapidly increase one's rank without any side effects? Doulouo Yan's answer was also very blunt. She said directly, did they really think such treasures were as common as cabbages? To be lucky enough to encounter one such spirit medicine was already a blessing from the heavens. Although the crowd still harbored doubts about Doulouo Yan's words, they had no intention of continuing to press her. After all, Doulouo Yan was not alone. Standing behind her was a titled Douluo. Although Doulouo was jokingly called the weakest titled Douluo, in reality, any titled Douluo with a background or concerns would be unwilling to provoke him. Compared to Doulouo Yan, the crowd was actually more interested in Yang Yuan. They heard he had been taken to Doulouo Yan's home as a guest, but Doulouo Yan had already been back at the academy for 3 days, and only now had Yang Yuan returned. Connecting this to Doulouo Yan's use of a treasure and her rapid progress in spirit power level. This naturally led the crowd to suspect whether Yang Yuan, like Doulouo Yan, had also consumed some kind of treasure. In the training ground, when Yu Tianheng heard people discussing this matter, he immediately pricked up his ears to listen. When he learned that after Yang Yuan's return, his spirit power level might advance by leaps and bounds like Doulouo Yan's, and even surpass his own. An inexplicable, nameless fire of jealousy rose in Yu Tianheng's heart, with nowhere to be vented. He sat on the training ground, clenched his fists, and slammed them hard against the ground, letting out a low, unwilling sound from his mouth. Damn it, why does every good thing fall upon him? Yu Tianheng stood up and walked over to the few people discussing the matter, his expression as dark as water. What happened next? Did Yang Yuan's spirit power advance by leaps and bounds like Dougu Yan's? The people discussing the matter were startled by Yu Tianheng's sudden behavior. Looking at his dark expression, the person who had just spoken couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva and replied stutteringly, "No, it said he is still rank 25. Hearing this, Yu Tianheng's heart instantly relaxed. That's good. In truth, he didn't look down on Yang Yuan. Rather, he was extremely displeased that his own assumptions were repeatedly face-slapped by Yang Yuan. Initially, he believed that while Yang Yuan's talent for cultivation was high, he only had an ordinary spirit and couldn't compare to the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon at all, nor could he be his opponent in actual combat. But Yang Yuan had used his own actions to tell everyone otherwise. His martial soul was not only a top-tier spirit, no less than the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon, but his combat strength was also impeccable. Even the extremely proud Yu Tianheng actually felt an emotion of wanting to avoid and fear battle when facing Yang Yuan, falling into an extremely contradictory state. He both wanted to prove he was stronger than Yang Yuan and worried that he would be defeated by him. Since Yu Tianheng joined Heaven Du Academy, he had never lost a battle within the same age group. It was precisely because of this that he could not bear being defeated by a kid 5 years younger than himself. At the same time, news of Yang Yuan's return to Heaven Du Academy quickly reached Qian Rengxu's ears. Zhu Qinghe, disguised by Qian Rengxu, looked at the contents recorded on the envelope, her brows rising slightly. Little brother Yang's spirit power level actually didn't increase. I thought he would also be like Dougu Yan, with his spirit power level advancing by leaps and bounds. Beside Qian Rengxu, Snake Lance Douluo shook his head and said, treasures that can increase spirit power without side effects, or even evolve a spirit, are rare even across the entire continent. Dougu Bo and that kid Yang Yuan are neither relatives nor friends. Even if there really were more such treasures, why would he share them with Yang Yuan? That's true, but why did little brother Yang stay at Dougu Bo's place for an extra 3 days? Qian Rengxu mused slightly. Snake Lance Douluo and the nearby Porcupinefish Douluo both shook their heads. Seeing this, Qian Rengxu had no intention of continuing to delve into the matter. She smiled faintly and said, have someone prepare, I'm going to see this little brother of mine tomorrow. Hadn't she brought Yang Yuan to Heaven Du Academy, precisely thinking that being close would make it easier to recruit him? Speaking of which, since Yang Yuan joined Heaven Du Academy, he had not yet met this Heaven Du Crown Prince. How could that be allowed? He was her designated member of the Crown Prince's faction, after all. Heaven Du Academy. Yang Yuan and Dougu Yan were strolling through it. Upon learning that Yang Yuan's rank actually remained at rank 25, Dougu Yan's heart was full of confusion. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. After Yang Yuan explained, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. Initially, she thought Yang Yuan had encountered a problem. Otherwise, after causing such a large commotion, how could his rank remain unchanged? Unknowingly, the bright moon rose, its light hazy as if a layer of white gauze had been sprinkled over the earth. Dougu Yan tilted her head and glanced at Yang Yuan. This little fellow was growing so fast. After not seeing him for 3 days, he seemed to have grown taller again, not looking like an 8-year-old child at all. Looking at his clean and handsome profile, Dougu Yan felt an inexplicable sense of gloom in her heart. If only little brother Yuan's age could be 3 or 4 years older, how good that would be. As soon as this thought arose, 2 blushes immediately flashed across Dougu Yan's cheeks. As the two strolled, a crisp and pleasant yet somewhat cold voice came from a distance. Sister Dougu. Hearing this voice, Dougu Yan suddenly snapped back to her senses. She looked over. A young girl wearing a goose yellow school uniform, with a thin build and a black veil over her face, stood not far away, greeting her. Seeing who it was, Yan immediately revealed a smile. "Lingeling, it's you." Saying so, she walked over with Yuan. Once they were close, she introduced her to Yuan. "Little brother Yuan, this is Lingeling, my friend." After that, she looked at Lingeling again and introduced Yuan to her. "Lingeling, he is Yuan, you should have heard his name." "Hello." Lingeling nodded slightly toward Yuan. In Heaven Do Academy now, there was basically no one who didn't know Yuan. However, this was her first time seeing Yuan from such a close distance. He was indeed just like the rumors. He looked so young, it seemed he really was only 8 years old. It was truly hard to imagine that an 8-year-old child's spirit power was as high as rank 24. Unlike her, who was already 13 years old, but had only reached rank 24 in spirit power level. Chapter 47, Ning Fengzhai's Assessment, The Temptation of the Sugar-Coated Cannonball. While Lingeling was sizing up Yuan was doing the same to her. Although Lingeling wore a black veil, this veil was useless in front of Yuan's double pupils. She had an elegant, very serene face, like a young lady from a noble family. Compared to her appearance, Yuan was equally interested in her 9-heart begonia martial soul. Currently, Yuan had already awakened the life force power in his left double pupil eye. This power was extremely potent, even rebirth from severed limbs was possible. But this was still far from Yuan's expectation. After all, this was the double pupils. If he could only achieve this much, it would be no different from being crippled, as he would not have fully developed the ability of his left eye. Unlike the supreme bone, which absorbs energy to nourish divine abilities. If Yuan wanted to develop the divine ability of his double pupils to the extreme, he had to constantly comprehend and evolve it. He continuously collected the spirit and spirit abilities of others, not just for the sake of returning the favor in kind and showing off. There was another important reason. That was, by collecting and comprehending the essence of these spirits and spirit abilities, he could grasp their governing laws and principles, which would then feed back into the double pupils, thereby achieving the effect of developing the double pupils. Lingeling's 9-heart begonia martial soul was naturally also his goal. After introductions, the three walked and chatted. Lingeling looked at Yan with envy. "Sister Dougu, I took 2 days off to go home, and as soon as I returned today, I heard about your deeds. Congratulations. A level 34 spirit elder at 13 years old. I doubt you could find many others like that across the continent." Yan smiled faintly, her gaze falling upon Yuan, revealing a tender expression. "It was all luck. If it weren't for little brother Yuan, I wouldn't have received this benefit." Lingeling was surprised. How is younger brother Yuan related to this? Didn't they say sister's promotion from level 27 to level 34 was because she consumed a treasure? That's right, but that treasure was sitting in my house, completely wasted. If little brother Yuan hadn't reminded me, I wouldn't have known that treasure had such benefits for me, and I certainly wouldn't have consumed it. So there was this hidden story. Lingeling suddenly understood and felt a greater admiration for Yuan. And when she heard Yan mention that her cultivation speed had increased, her face showed even more envy. Her innate spirit power was the same as Yan's, innate level 7. But her spirit was the 9-heart begonia. As a support system spirit master, her cultivation speed was inherently slower. This was why she was only a few months younger than Yan, yet her spirit power was 3 levels lower than Yan's. She was already struggling to keep up with Yan's cultivation speed before. Now Yan had consumed a treasure, and her cultivation speed had increased significantly. In the future, the gap between them would probably only widen. Thinking of this, Lingeling felt both happy for her friend and a little melancholic. Yan noted Lingeling's expression. She wasn't a stingy person. Given her relationship with Lingeling, what did it matter if she gave Lingeling 1 or 2 treasures? However, she had to discuss this with little brother Yuan first, asking him to help choose a suitable item for Lingling, and then give Lingling a surprise. After walking for a while longer, before they parted ways, Yang Yuan requested permission from Yi Lingling to observe her 9-heart begonia martial soul. Yi Lingling simply thought Yang Yuan was curious about the 9-heart begonia martial soul. But Du Guyang guessed that Yang Yuan most likely wanted to replicate the 9-heart begonia martial soul. Back at the dormitory, Yang Yuan sat cross-legged on the bed and immediately manifested the 9-heart begonia martial soul within his double pupils, then began to comprehend it. Within his double pupils, divine radiance flickered, and countless runes flowed, explaining the essence of the 9-heart begonia martial soul to him. The life force power of this spirit was the most concentrated among the spirits Yang Yuan had currently replicated, but it was not entirely pure. Instead, it involved a certain law of heaven and earth, granting it powerful healing capabilities. Conversely, the life force power within Yang Yuan's double pupils was more comprehensive and versatile. After a night of comprehension, Yang Yuan's development of his left eye's life force power increased by another degree. At the same time, at the entrance of the Heaven Du Academy, Zhu Qingha, disguised by Qian Rengxu, walked respectfully towards an elegant man. Teacher. The elegant middle-aged man was not alone. Beside him stood an old man and a charming, delicately sculpted little girl. After Qian Rengxu approached, she nodded slightly and also bowed slightly to the white-robed elder beside the elegant man. "Greetings, Your Excellency, Sword Douluo." Sword Douluo waved his hand casually, nodding slightly with a calm and detached demeanor. Finally, Zhu Qinghe looked at the little girl being led by Ning Fengzhai, stepping forward to stroke her head. "Little Rongrong, we meet again." Enning Rongrong sweetly replied, "Rongrong greets elder brother King." "Yes." Qian Rengxu responded, then shifted her gaze to Ning Fengzhai. Enning Fengzhai said warmly, "It's King. What a coincidence, you've come to the Heaven Du Academy too." Qian Rengxu smiled and nodded, chuckling. "A while ago, I discovered a genius under my command, so I recommended him into the Heaven Du Academy. Today, I finally had some free time and wanted to come and check on him." Hearing this, Ning Fengzhai couldn't help but laugh, simultaneously letting out a sigh. He naturally understood the meaning behind his disciple's words. It seemed his disciple had guessed his intention and was rushing to assert ownership. Although he felt regretful, Ning Fengzhai could understand his disciple's thoughts and quickly recovered his composure. He couldn't bring himself to fight his own disciple over a person. Although Yang Yuan was indeed rarely seen in the world, being level 25 at 8 years old. But who could guarantee that he would maintain such a fast cultivation speed forever? Enning Fengzhai wouldn't go so far as to cause unpleasantness with his disciple for a genius who hadn't fully matured yet. Moreover, Ning Fengzhai had reviewed Yang Yuan's files. Although the files stated he was level 25 at 8 years old and had absorbed millennium-level first and second rings. In Ning Fengzhai's opinion, while Yang Yuan's talent was high, it wasn't as mythical as rumored. The reason he could achieve multiple incredible feats was mainly attributed to the mysterious fruit he had consumed earlier. That fruit likely had similar efficacy to the treasure Du Guyang consumed. Therefore, Yang Yuan's true potential was probably just a bit more advantageous than that of ordinary, innate full spirit power prodigies. If he didn't perish in the future, he might have a chance to grow to the level of Uncle Jian and Uncle Gu. But it was only a chance. After all, there were many geniuses on the continent who were astonishing at first, but eventually faded into obscurity. I came today because I also heard about a young hero, recently emerging at the Heaven Du Academy, so I was moved by curiosity, bringing Uncle Jian and Rongrong to see what this so-called young hero looked like and try to recruit him into the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. But since King has taken a liking to that child, it would be inconvenient for this teacher to snatch him away. Then thank you, teacher, for yielding. Qian Rengxu smiled faintly, the corners of her mouth slightly curving up. This was exactly the sentence she wanted from Ning Fengzhai. Otherwise, given Ning Fengzhai's intelligence and ability to use Gu, coupled with the 7 treasure glazed tile schools, immense wealth and power. Qian Rengxiu was genuinely afraid that Yang Yuan wouldn't be able to resist the sugar-coated cannonball shot out by the 7 treasure glazed tile school. Chapter 48. This soft rice tastes really good. Qian Rengxiu and Ning Fengzhai were chatting and laughing with the 3 of them. Students passing by would all stop and respectfully greet them. Ning Fengzhai responded with a faint smile, while Qian Rengxiu maintained an easygoing demeanor, her temperament elegant and similar to the former. She would nod and smile at every student who greeted her, displaying the demeanor of an enlightened ruler who respects the virtuous and condescends to the lowly. Seeing this scene, Ning Fengzhai nodded inwardly. It seemed he had chosen the right person. This was the bearing a crown prince should have. Whether Zhu King was doing this as an act or not, it would make these young students in the academy develop a good impression of him. In the future, whether for recruitment or winning people over, it would serve a very good purpose. The group soon walked into an elegant pavilion. Qian Rengxiu greeted the guards beside her. Go and invite little brother Yang Yuan over. If he is currently cultivating, then forget it, do not disturb him. Although she said that, Qian Rengxiu actually hoped that Yang Yuan was currently cultivating. In this way, she could not only demonstrate her demeanor of respecting the virtuous, but also avoid letting Yang Yuan and Ning Fengzhai meet. Well, Qian Rengxiu still hadn't let down her guard against her teacher. Because she knew very well that the reason Ning Fengzhai was willing to yield Yang Yuan to her was mainly because he didn't know enough about Yang Yuan. If he were to know Yang Yuan's true talent, he would definitely make a move faster than anyone else. Just like how his father recruited the current sword Douluo and bone Douluo back in the day. However, the development of events clearly did not go as Qian Rengxiu had wished. Today was the day for the practical combat class, and Yang Yuan was on the training ground, fighting 1 against 3, accompanying 3 classmates in a playful spar. As soon as the person sent by Qian Rengxiu spoke, he hurriedly and cleanly took down his opponents, then came as invited. Walking into an exquisitely decorated reception hall, Yang Yuan swept his gaze across the room, taking in everyone in the hall, and instantly guessed their identities. Ning Fengzhai, sword Douluo Chenzin, and Ning Rongrong. Seeing Yang Yuan walk through the door, the disguised Zhu King immediately laughed heartily and stood up to welcome him. You must be little brother Yang Yuan, right? My name is Zhu King, you should have heard my name. I even managed to get into Heaven Do Academy, relying on your reputation. Yang Yuan gave a simple and honest grin, his gaze sweeping over Zhu King. His deep, galaxy-like eyes inexplicably made Qian Rengxiu tremble in her heart, as if she had a feeling that her disguise had been seen through by Yang Yuan's eyes. But immediately, Qian Rengxiu regained her composure and laughed at herself inwardly. She was truly silly to actually suspect that little brother Yang had seen through her true face. One must know that even a titled Douluo could not see through the disguise on her body. Even if little brother Yang's spirit was peculiar, when it came down to it, he was just a spirit grandmaster in his 20s. How could he possibly see through the disguise on her? A calm smile appeared on Qian Rengxiu's elegant face, and she waved her hand casually. Little brother Yang is joking, I only went with the flow. With your talent, little brother, any academy in the world would open its doors for you. Yang Yuan chuckled. Crown Prince, you flatter me, you flatter me. Looking at his grinning appearance, Qian Rengxiu couldn't help but complain inwardly. You little guy are quite quick to get familiar. This is the first time we've met, and you're already calling me brother. However, this was good too. As long as he wasn't repulsed, it was a good sign. Subsequently, Qian Rengxiu looked at Yang Yuan and smiled. Since you've called me brother, I will give you a welcome gift. It's our first meeting, and I don't know what you like, so please don't think the gift I'm giving is too light. After speaking, Qian Rengxiu raised her hand and wiped it across a ring. A well-crafted, long, carved sandalwood box appeared in her hand. After she placed the sandalwood box on the table, everyone looked over curiously. Ning Fengzhai narrowed his eyes slightly. He didn't believe that his disciple would have come unprepared. This welcome gift must have been carefully selected by him. He just didn't know what the welcome gift he was giving was. While Ning Fengzhai was pondering, Zhu King had already opened the sandalwood box. Inside the sandalwood box, lined with pale gold goose down, a long sword in its scabbard lay quietly. This long sword had a simple and ancient scabbard, the entire body presenting a dull, pitch-black color, yet it did not appear lifeless. Qian Rengxu faced Yang Yuan, a gentle smile on her lips, and made a gesture of please. I obtained this sword by chance. It was forged by the generation's divine craftsman, Lu Gao, and its quality can be called a sharp weapon. Little brother, you can see if this precious sword is suitable for you. After hearing this, Yang Yuan's gaze lingered slightly on the precious sword. Divine light flowed within his double pupils, and he had already seen through the essence of this sword. Placed on the Douluo Continent, this sword could indeed be called a sharp weapon. He had also seen quite a few sword spirits in the Heaven Do Great Spirit arena. But the quality of those sword spirits was far inferior to this precious sword. Yang Yuan did not stand on ceremony. He reached out, grabbed the sword, and took it directly from the sandalwood box, exerting a slight force with his wrist in front of everyone. Clang! A crisp sword sound suddenly rang out in the hall. As the blade was slowly drawn out, a ray of light reflected from the sword body, revealing a slightly cool chill. Sword Douluo narrowed his eyes slightly, instantly fixing them on the long sword. His lips parted slightly, and he calmly spat out 2 words. Good sword. The sword was fully unsheathed. It looked like a pool of autumn water, bright enough to reflect a person. The sword's spine was straight, the blade's edge was sharp and exposed, and the cold light was biting. Near the sword guard, 2 flowing, dragon-like characters were engraved. Frost. Yang Yuan stood holding the sword body reflecting his deep double pupils. This sword, whether in terms of appearance or quality, far exceeded the old partner he used in the Stardew Great Forest. The corners of Yang Yuan's mouth lifted slightly, and he returned the frost sword to its scabbard. And a look of satisfaction appeared on his face. Sister Zhu still understood him. This soft rice, it really tastes good. Yang Yuan put the frost sword back into the sandalwood box and grinned. I like this welcome gift from the Crown Prince very much. As long as you like it. Seeing this, Qian Rengxu couldn't help but chuckle, and then she introduced the 3 of Ning Fengzhai to Yang Yuan. By the way, these 3 are. After listening to his introduction, Yang Yuan also grinned at Ning Fengzhai and Sword Douluo. I am Yang Yuan. I have met Schoolmaster Ning and Senior Sword Douluo. He, little brother, there is no need to be constrained. I am King's teacher. You can just call me Uncle Enning. Enning Fengzhai looked easygoing. Although he did not intend to compete with his disciple for a genius like Yang Yuan, this did not affect his intention to be on good terms with him. As for Sword Douluo Chenzin, he just nodded slightly in response. And on the other side of Ning Fengzhai, Ning Rongrong snorted in dissatisfaction. What is this? You greeted Dad and Grandpa Sword, but you didn't even know to greet me. As soon as she finished speaking, Ning Fengzhai lowered his head and glared at her. What kind of tone is that to use when speaking to your brother? Hurry up and apologize to your brother. Seeing Ning Fengzhai reprimand Ning Rongrong, Sword Douluo immediately advised from the side, Fengzhai, Rongrong is still young. Enning Fengzhai smiled bitterly. Uncle Sword, if this continues, Rongrong will be spoiled rotten by you all. After speaking, he continued to look at Ning Rongrong. Hurry up and apologize. Enning Rongrong pouted her little mouth, but still reluctantly apologized to Yang Yuan. Brother Yang Yuan, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have used that tone to speak to you just now. Chapter 49, I just touched her head, what bad intentions could I have? Enning Rongrong's princess syndrome had clearly begun to show its first signs at this time. But Yang Yuan wouldn't bother arguing with her over just that one sentence. Moreover, as the young miss of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, Ning Rongrong's status was even higher than an imperial princess, so it was completely normal for her to have a bit of princess syndrome. As for her developing a white-eyed wolf personality in the original work's late stage, that was something to ask Shrek's education about. It was as if she had been brainwashed. Yang Yuan reached out and ruffled Ning Rongrong's hair, smiling, Big brother forgives you. Ening Rongrong was stunned by Yang Yuan's action. Among her peers, aside from her brothers, this was the first time an outsider had dared to touch her head. Others didn't even dare to look her directly in the eyes, they were scared to death. However, after just a moment of stunned, Ning Rongrong quickly reacted, pouting her small mouth and muttering to herself. This young miss didn't do anything wrong, why do I need to apologize? Of course, she definitely wouldn't say these words out loud, otherwise, her father would scold her again. Ening Fengzhai smiled slightly. Ever since Rongrong's awakening of innate level 9 spirit power a few days ago, he had already designated her as his successor. Therefore, he was very happy to see Ning Rongrong and Yang Yuan maintain a good relationship. Of course, given the talent Yang Yuan displayed. If he and Rongrong developed some kind of relationship in the future, he would be happy to see it happen. It's just that if that happened, his precious disciple might be unhappy. Thinking of this, his gaze shifted towards his precious disciple. As expected, he found her expression not very good. Clearly, she had thought of the same thing as him. Kaiyan Renxu inwardly complained, what a little pervert, getting handsy with girls at such a young age. What will he be like when he grows up? Yang Yuan naturally didn't know what Kaiyan Renxu was thinking, otherwise, he would probably cry out in injustice. They weren't sleeping in the same bed. In the original work, the three sons and Zyro Wu slept in the same bed, yet they still dared to claim they were pure. He just touched a head, what bad intentions could he have? Even if he did have intentions, they would be for someone like Yuan and Kaiyan Renxu. Noticing Kaiyan Renxu's gaze, Yang Yuan withdrew his hand, found a seat, closed the sandalwood box containing the frost sword on the table, and looked at Kaiyan Renxu. Crown Prince Ji, then I'll accept this meeting gift. Kaiyan Renxu smiled gently, of course, it's yours now. Upon hearing this, Yang Yuan immediately closed the sandalwood box and casually put it into his storage soul tool. Then he continued to speak. By the way, Crown Prince Ji, did you come to see me for something? Kaiyan Renxu smiled faintly. It's nothing in particular, but I recommended you to Heaven Do Academy. It would be too irresponsible if I didn't come to check on you. So that's how it is, Yang Yuan feigned sudden understanding. Kaiyan Renxu then asked Yang Yuan some everyday questions. For example, she asked about the cultivation environment in the academy, the teaching quality, and whether he was satisfied with academy life. Ening Fengzhai occasionally chimed in from the side, but without any intention of overshadowing. After all, he had already said that he wouldn't compete with Su Qing's for Yang Yuan, outside Heaven Do Academy. Ening Fengzhai and the two others sat in a luxurious carriage. Ening Fengzhai smiled and said, Uncle Ening, what do you think of Yang Yuan? Sword Douluo was concise. Neither servile nor overbearing, he is a talent. Ening Fengzhai stroked his chin, a look of appreciation on his face. Grandpa Sword and I think alike. I saw his profile before, it said he came from a remote small city with an ordinary background. But after spending some time with him today, he doesn't feel like someone from an ordinary family at all. Sword Douluo chuckled, how so? Ening Fengzhai recalled Yang Yuan's tone and demeanor, his eyes slightly narrowed. A child from an ordinary family, even with outstanding talent, upon learning our identities, not only didn't feel constrained, but also showed no trace of awe. Do you think his behavior is like someone born into an ordinary family? From him, I see a kind of confidence born from having strong backing. Sword Douluo was startled. So Fengzhai, you think he has someone behind him? Ening Fengzhai smiled faintly. Perhaps, after all, the continent is so vast, there might be some old freak cultivating in seclusion. After speaking, Ning Fengzhai sighed, a look of regret appearing on his face. I should have known not to speak so absolutely before. If this little fellow really has someone behind him, then we've truly suffered a great loss. I didn't expect Fengzhai to have moments of regret too, Sword Douluo laughed. Ening Fengzhai gave a bitter smile, then suddenly looked at Ning Rongrong beside him. At this moment, Ning Rongrong's delicate, doll-like face was filled with frustration and unwillingness. She had been hearing her father praise Yang Yuan's talent, so she developed a competitive spirit, and immediately asked about Yang Yuan's innate spirit power. Originally, Ning Rongrong was very proud of her innate spirit power. Because she had innate level 9 spirit power, even her father and grandpa Sword praised her as a genius of the 7 treasure glazed tile school, seen once in 100 years, and very likely to evolve the 7 treasure glazed tile spirit into the 8 treasure glazed tile pagoda. Currently, her talent was the highest in the entire 7 treasure glazed tile school. But who knew Yang Yuan actually had innate full spirit power, even higher talent than her. Ning Rongrong's competitive spirit was immediately ignited. Especially after hearing that Yang Yuan was level 25 at 8 years old, she made up her mind. It's just one level of innate spirit power difference, isn't it? If Yang Yuan could reach level 25 at 8 years old, she definitely could too. Ning Rongrong, who had just awakened her spirit and begun to cultivate, didn't yet know what it meant to reach level 25 at 8 years old. She only felt that there was only a 1-level gap between her and Yang Yuan. So what Yang Yuan could do, she could definitely do too. Once she also reached level 25 at 8 years old, she could then mock him severely. But just as the saying goes, if you don't cultivate, you see me as a frog in a well gazing at the moon in the sky. If you cultivate, you see me as a tiny mayfly gazing at the blue sky. Only those who have cultivated for a period know how terrifying it is to be level 25 at 8 years old. Grandpa Sword, what do you think about sending Rongrong to Heaven Do Academy when she reaches level 20? Hearing Ning Fengzhai's words, Sword Douluo frowned. Fengzhai, what are you thinking? Isn't it better for Rongrong to cultivate in the sect than in Heaven Do Academy? Ning Fengzhai smiled. Grandpa Sword, Rongrong is my successor. She can't stay cooped up in the sect forever. Sending her to Heaven Do Academy might not be a bad thing. Although Heaven Do Academy's atmosphere is corrupt, it doesn't lack talent. It's good for her to see the world. Sword Douluo sighed upon hearing this. Although that was true, he had already guessed Ning Fengzhai's true intentions. He was still unwilling to give up on that child. Ostensibly, he wasn't competing with Zhu Qinghe. But in reality, he wanted to find another way to bind that child more closely to the 7 treasure glazed tile school. Although Sword Douluo felt this approach was too worldly, he had to admit that child was indeed worth them doing so. Ning Fengzhai stroked Ning Rongrong's head and smiled gently. Rongrong, when you reach level 20 in a few years, how about Dad sends you to Heaven Do Academy? Upon hearing this, Ning Rongrong immediately felt a sense of being underestimated, then let out a dissatisfied snort. Why would it take a few years? If Yang Yuan can reach level 25 at 8 years old, Rongrong can too. Dad, just watch, Rongrong will reach level 20 next year. Ning Fengzhai and Sword Douluo, ha. Chapter 50, Time Flies, Life and Death Chaos Heaven Skill. Heaven Do Academy. After seeing Ning Fengzhai and the 2 others off, only Yang Yuan and Cayenne Renxu remained in the living room. The latter teased him. Don't you think Sister Rongrong is pretty? Yang Yuan's mouth twitched and he said testily, what's so pretty about a 6-year-old girl? Cayenne Renxu found his words strange yet amusing, her face full of teasing. Why do you sound so old-fashioned every time you open your mouth? Don't forget, you're only 6 years old too. Could it be that you've gotten so into character that you actually believe you're 8? Crown Prince brother, you're talking too much. Weren't you quite proper when Uncle Ning and the others were here? Cayenne Renxu pursed her lips and smiled, stating frankly, if I were to ask these things in front of teacher, I'm afraid he really would be tempted to have Rongrong use a honey trap on you. With little brother Yang's talent, which power in this world wouldn't want to recruit him? So of course I have to be careful, otherwise if little brother Yang were to be snatched away on my territory, I'd only regret it immensely. Yang Yuan raised an eyebrow. Crown Prince brother, have you already classified me as part of the Crown Prince's faction? I haven't agreed yet. Zhu Qinghe, disguised as Cayenne Renxu, laughed heartily, full of heroic spirit and confidence. They say the early bird catches the worm. Little brother Yang is studying at Heaven Do Academy, and Heaven Do Academy is my territory. If I can't recruit little brother Yang with such a great advantage, then it only means my ability is insufficient, and I can't gain little brother Yang's approval. Yang Yuan carefully observed Qian Renxiu's current demeanor. It must be said, she acted really well, and truly immersed herself in the identity of the Heaven Du Crown Prince. This kind of performance would have made an ordinary child's blood boil with emotion long ago. Of course, this had little effect on Yang Yuan. He grinned and with a simple expression, began to coax her. He, thank you for your high regard, Crown Prince brother. Because of your words, if I ever join a power in the future, the Crown Prince's faction will be my first consideration. Don't dislike me then, Crown Prince brother. Qian Renxiu's eyes lit up. There was real hope. It seemed that with a little more effort, Yang Yuan could be recruited. Qian Renxiu never thought Yang Yuan was tricking her. After all, this child was only 6 years old, how could he be cunning? After Qian Renxiu left contentedly, Yang Yuan watched her retreating figure and chuckled. Joining a certain power was impossible for him. How could a great man, living between heaven and earth, long remain subservient to others? With his talent, he was confident that within 10 years, he would be able to influence the general trend of the world. After today, the students of Heaven Du Academy noticed that His Highness, the Crown Prince, seemed to visit the academy more and more frequently. However, they soon understood the reason. They knew that His Highness, the Crown Prince, wanted to recruit Yang Yuan. However, Yang Yuan indeed had this qualification, and many people were convinced by his talent. Because the talent he displayed was completely like that of a monster. At 8 years old, he reached rank 25. At 9, he broke through to rank 30, and unprecedentedly absorbed a 10,000-year third spirit ring in one go, shocking Heaven Du City. After that, he became unstoppable, reaching rank 40 at 11 years old, and at the tender age of 14, he had already reached rank 56, a feat that shocked ancient and modern times. And Qian Renxiu, who knew Yang Yuan's true age, was even more astonished beyond words. Both had innate rank 20 spirit power, but at the age of 12, Yang Yuan's achievements had far surpassed hers. This made Qian Renxiu admire him greatly, but also feel deeply troubled. Over the years, she had frequently changed her identity to Zhu Qiangsun to interact with Yang Yuan. Although this little fellow was close to her, he never showed any intention of pledging allegiance to her. Qian Renxiu also saw through Yang Yuan's simple exterior to his cunning nature. This cunning little fellow accepted all the benefits she offered. But the moment she brought up recruitment, he would change the subject with various excuses. Many times, Qian Renxiu was so annoyed by him that her teeth ached. Heaven Du Academy. Yang Yuan sat cross-legged in a lush ancient forest. With each breath, rich heaven and earth energy swept in from all directions, surging into his body like 100 rivers returning to the sea. Years ago, he copied the mysterious heaven skill from Tang San. Now, he continuously improved it, combining it with the profound mysteries of the Double Pupils' life and death yin and yang, forming a brand new cultivation technique. Yang Yuan named it Life and Death Chaos Heaven Skill. Cultivating this technique allows one to cultivate a special kind of spirit power, imbued with the profound mysteries of life and death, capable of annihilating everything, and also bringing withered trees back to spring. After finishing his cultivation, Yang Yuan stood up and gazed far into the distance. Time flew by, and he felt a sense of emotion in his heart. In these 6 years, his strength had undergone earth-shattering changes. Even without relying on Douuluo and Qian Renxiu, he now had the capital to establish himself in this world. Although he hadn't gone all out, Yang Yuan was certain that the number of people in the current era who could stop him was probably less than 10. In just a few years, his combat power had expanded terrifyingly. After stretching, Yang Yuan walked out of this area. Not long after, he saw Yi Lingling sitting cross-legged and cultivating in a patch of flowers. Several years ago, Du Guyan found Yang Yuan and asked him to help Yi Lingling find 1 or 2 suitable spirit medicine from the medicine garden of the ice and fire yin-yang well. Yang Yuan searched, but most of the immortal herbs in the medicine garden were not suitable for her. In the end, he could only help her find 2 other spirit medicine. One was the 9-grade purple Ganoderma that Tang San gave Yu Xiaorogang in the original work, and the other was a nearly 30,000-year-old spirit medicine containing vast life force. Of these two spirit medicine, the 9-grade purple Ganoderma, in addition to strengthening the foundation, nourishing Kai, and increasing cultivation, also had the effect of transforming one's physique. The other spirit medicine, on the other hand, possessed immense life force, complementing the 9-heart begonia martial soul perfectly. Under the effects of these two spirit medicine, Yi Lingerling's rank increased by 4 levels, and her cultivation speed also increased by 2 to 3/10 compared to before. Although not as effective as immortal herbs, it was still not weak. After several years, her spirit power rank had reached level 41, much higher than the rank 35 in the original work. However, Yang Yuan saw that she was cultivating and had no intention of disturbing her, so he left directly. Returning to the main academy area, students passing by greeted Yang Yuan. Over the years, Yang Yuan had been known as the peerless Devil King at Heaven Do Academy. None of the dissolute youths he disliked escaped his punishment. Even if they reported him to the committee members, he wasn't afraid in the slightest. It was well known that top students in the academy received special treatment. In the hearts of the 3 committee members, Yang Yuan was a precious jade they held in their palms, fearing he might get upset and simply drop out. It could be said that as long as Yang Yuan was present, the championship of this year's Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy tournament was basically predetermined for Heaven Do Academy. At least that's how the 3 committee members saw it. So whenever Yang Yuan taught someone a lesson and it reached the committee member's office, the 3 committee members would only tell the disciplined dissolute youth, "It takes 2 to tango. Why does Yang Yuan only bully you and not others? It's clear you were at fault first." Those dissolute youths had never received such treatment before and had no way to voice their grievances. And because of Yang Yuan, the atmosphere at Heaven Do Academy had become surprisingly good over the years, and the students' cultivation efficiency had also improved. Various academies heard this news and even proposed sending people over to exchange experiences. This allowed the 3 committee members to show their faces in front of the major famous schools. That's it for today's chapter. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, and subscribe to AI Otaku Studio for more stories. Check out my other channel, Infinite Novel Audio, and I'll see you in the next chapter.